To break off the engagement, I made the Iceberg CEO cry. Chapter 1. I enlisted at 17, joined the world's strongest land combat force, the Beimong Army, at 18. After 10 years of military service, covered in scars, I left a deep mark in the history of modern warfare. When I decided to retire, the military district commander was the first to oppose, and he threw a huge tantrum. In a high-end coffee shop, Zhang Ruoyu, wearing a slightly ill-fitting suit, was bragging endlessly about his military career. Sitting across from him was a domineering ice-cold beauty, Han Jiangxue, Zhang Ruoyu's fiancée. Though they had never met before, Zhang Ruoyu had long heard of Han Jiangxue's ruthless reputation. She was infamous in Binhai City as a femme fatale. The Beimong Army commander actually got so angry over a cook retiring. Han Jiangxue sneered. "It seems your culinary skills are really exceptional." Of course. After 10 years in the army, I mastered various skills. Whether it's the 8 major Chinese cuisines or private dishes, I can whip them up easily. Zhang Ruoyu said proudly. In the army, whether it's internal banquets or hosting foreign guests, the leaders only trust me. No exaggeration, without me, the banquet wouldn't even happen. Since the leaders value you so much, why did you retire? Han Jiangxue narrowed her beautiful eyes. I'm tired, and I'm worn out. Zhang Ruoyu exhaled a deep breath, his face filled with melancholy. For 10 years, I've traveled with the Beimong Army across the country. Though I've earned honors, I feel like a floating reed, without roots or a place to call home. Pausing for a moment, he added with a sorrowful expression, I want to live an ordinary life, have simple meals, and enjoy family life. A flash of disgust crossed Han Jiangxue's eyes. The man she was promised to marry was even worse than she had imagined. 10 years in the military had failed to cultivate any real grit in him. Instead, he had become a smooth-talking, boastful soldier. Marrying him? Han Jiangxue felt repulsed. Zhang Ruoyu took a sip of his coffee and discreetly glanced at Han Jiangxue. Her face twisted in disgust, as if she had eaten a fly. And he was the fly in her eyes. Zhang Ruoyu, who was pressured into this blind date by his aunt, was quite pleased. Judging by Han Jiangxue's almost life-ending expression, she should be on the verge of breaking down. What kind of woman do you like? Han Jiangxue suddenly asked. I like women with short hair. Zhang Ruoyu glanced at her long, flowing hair and finely sculpted features. Their noses should have some flesh, their faces should be round, with big breasts and a round backside. Having said this, Zhang Ruoyu exaggeratedly formed an S-shaped curve with his hands and solemnly added, as the old saying goes, such women are good for having children. After hearing Zhang Ruoyu's utterly disrespectful words about women, Han Jiangxue's eyes flashed with coldness. However, she still maintained a neutral expression. What about personality? Playful, quirky, and preferably a little comical. Zhang Ruoyu said leisurely. I don't like women who always act like they're superior, as if everyone owes them thousands of dollars. That's just too pretentious. Knowing that Zhang Ruoyu's words were meant to insult her, Han Jiangxue still remained impassive. What do you think about marriage? Marriage is just a process of signing a certificate and then living separately. Zhang Ruoyu continued confidently, painting himself as the epitome of moral decay. As for so-called everlasting love, that's just about not finding someone better than cohabiting to get through life. Zhang Ruoyu's rant made it clear what kind of degenerate he was. At this point, he thought the engagement was basically over. But to his surprise, Han Jiangxue not only didn't he get angry, but also said, word by word, let us get married. Silence. Dead silence. Zhang Ruoyu's terrified gaze fell on Han Jiangxue's abdomen. Cautiously, he asked, how many months? Han Jiangxue's expression turned cold, her voice icy. Do you think you're funny? If you're not pregnant, why are you so eager to marry me? Zhang Ruoyu asked with a headache. We have an engagement. Han Jiangxue said indifferently. What kind of reason is that? Zhang Ruoyu acted magnanimously. As long as you break the engagement, I won't pester you. Why don't you break the engagement? Han Jiangxue coldly countered. If you do, I'll leave right now and give you a large sum for breaking up. Zhang Ruoyu was stunned. If he dared to break off the engagement, his tyrant of an aunt would break his legs. From the looks of it, Han Jiangxue was also being forced into this marriage. Zhang Ruoyu sighed deeply. His whole life had been about strength, and now he was being handed an arranged marriage. It was truly pathetic. After a long silence, Zhang Ruoyu made a show of nobly accepting his fate and gritted his teeth, saying, "If you want to marry me, you must agree to several conditions, otherwise, I would rather die than comply." Han Jiangxue frowned, too tired to correct him, and waited in silence. "First, you can't develop feelings for me, and you must not try to seduce me." Zhang Ruoyu glanced at her chest, feeling a bit uncertain. "Unless I'm crazy," Han Jiangxue responded, disgusted. "Second, we can share a room, but not the same bed." Zhang Ruoyu added another condition. Han Jiangxue remained silent, not wanting to speak. "Finally, and most importantly, this is a contractual marriage. You can't interfere with my freedom to fall in love. If I find true love, and the timing for divorce hasn't come yet, you must cover for me. I don't want to be misunderstood, and I definitely don't want to be labeled a heartless man." Han Jiangxue was filled with disgust, her mind a whirlwind, but she only spat out 2 words through gritted teeth: "Scumbag." Despite reluctantly accepting Zhang Ruoyu's shameless conditions, Han Jiangxue struggled to control her boiling emotions, feeling like her insides were churning. The reason she was enduring this was that her grandmother had gone on a hunger strike for 2 days to pressure her into fulfilling the engagement. If she dared to refuse, her grandmother, with her donkey-like temper, would starve herself to death on the bed. In the end, Han Jiangxue gave in. However, just as Han Jiangxue was about to take Zhang Ruoyu, who was still babbling about the post-marriage details, to the Civil Affairs Bureau, the sound of a piercing air raid siren suddenly echoed outside the coffee shop. The siren blared throughout the city, causing pedestrians on the street to look around in panic. It wasn't a National Horn Day. Moreover, all administrative buildings in sight had lowered their flags to half-mast. What had happened? "Look!" A man inside the cafe pointed to the large screen on the wall, his expression agitated. "The 4 legendary war gods of China are carrying a coffin. The coffin is draped with the national flag. This is a national tragedy. And it was being broadcast live during primetime news. Who exactly has passed away?" The man's blood surged, his eyes reddened. Inside the coffee shop, discussions broke out, and the entire city of Binhai was enveloped in a mood of oppression and sorrow. Who was this great person being mourned with national mourning? On the screen, an elderly man with a white beard appeared, covered in medals, his face filled with grief. "Today, the leader of the Beimong Army, the legendary war god of China, Zhang Jiangxue, has died in battle for the country." Upon hearing these words, Han Jiangxue's face turned as white as a sheet. Zhang Jiangxue? The strongest war god of China in the past decade. In her mind, no man could compare to him. But now, this legendary war hero was gone. There wasn't even a memorial photo published. No one had ever seen his true face. The national mourning lasted for 10 minutes, and even the emotionally tough Han Jiangxue felt a surge of turmoil inside. Her emotions were so stirred because, a year ago, when she was kidnapped by pirates while negotiating international maritime business, her life had been hanging by a thread. And it was this very leader of the Beimong Army, Zhang Jiangxue, who had saved her from the jaws of death. That year, she had glimpsed Zhang Jiangxue's back from a distance, but never had the chance to thank him. Now, upon hearing the news of his death, Han Jiangxue could hardly control her emotions. The coffee shop was chaotic, and all the citizens were grieving the loss of this national hero. But Zhang Ruoyu remained disdainful, even sneering slightly, seemingly unimpressed by this great hero who was being mourned as a national treasure. Seeing this, Han Jiangxue felt her heart die inside. "Sigh, it's such a pity I couldn't see Xiao Zhang off for the last time," Zhang Ruoyu sighed dramatically. Looking at Zhang Ruoyu's feigned sorrow, Han Jiangxue felt a wave of disgust. "Do you know Zhang Jiangxue?" "Not only do I know him, Xiao Zhang and I were like brothers, as close as family. When he first joined the Beimong Army, he loved the braised lion's head I made." Zhang Ruoyu sighed in regret. "It's such a shame, fate is cruel. He died so young. Zhang Jiangxue died in battle for the country, his sacrifice is greater than Mount Tai. Compared to the legendary war god Zhang Jiangxue, this man, who was about to marry her, was absolutely worthless. I was just saying it casually. Why are you so worked up?" Zhang Ruoyu sneered. "Do you have a crush on Zhang Jiangxue?" Han Jiangxue stood up in anger and coldly threw down a sentence: "Bring your ID to the Civil Affairs Bureau." With that, she walked towards the door. Zhang Ruoyu sat there in a daze, lazily lighting a cigarette. On his once carefree and reckless face, a trace of melancholy quietly appeared. Watching my own funeral on TV, that's really awkward. Chapter 2, Dirty Woman. The process of getting the marriage certificate was easier than Zhang Ruoyu's enlistment years ago. The only awkward moment was when the staff, noticing Han Jiangxue's stiff, lifeless face, subtly reminded her, "This is for the marriage certificate, divorce is next door." After completing the paperwork, Zhang Ruoyu struggled for a while in the luxury car before pulling out an olive green Agricultural Bank of China card and handing it to Han Jiangxue. "There's 50,000 here. Buy whatever you like, consider it your dowry. Don't worry, even if this is a marriage of convenience, I won't mistreat you." Han Jiangxue didn't take the card and kept her eyes focused on the road. "Keep your money for your second marriage." Zhang Ruoyu raised an eyebrow, thinking the woman was quite understanding. So, he put aside his male pride and didn't retort. "Where are we going?" Zhang Ruoyu glanced at the dazzling night view outside the car window and put the bank card away. "To my place." Han Jiangxue responded indifferently. Just a few days ago, old lady Han had prepared a luxurious wedding house for the newlyweds. "What do you mean?" Zhang Ruoyu's face darkened immediately. "You want me to be a live-in son-in-law?" Han Jiangxue didn't deny it. "We're from the Beimong Army, every one of us is tough and proud." Zhang Ruoyu's emotions flared. "You want me to live off you? That's an insult to the 300,000 soldiers of the Beimong Army." "Oh." Han Jiangxue replied flatly. "My Zhang family has been passed down for 8 generations, the family tree is waiting for me to write in it. You want me to be adopted into your family? You better drive straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau now and let us get this marriage annulled." Zhang Ruoyu insisted, not letting up. Han Jiangxue furrowed her brows, a hint of impatience flashing in her eyes. "Don't want to come to my place? You'd rather go to the cheap hotel where you're staying?" The two had just gotten their marriage certificate, officially a newlywed couple. Was she supposed to have their wedding night in a budget hotel? Having been raised in comfort, Han Jiangxue couldn't accept it. She picked the bed. "I stay at the hotel because I'm used to having no fixed place and drifting around." Zhang Ruoyu spoke with a deep gaze. "Now that we're married, I'll give you a warm home." Han Jiangxue felt a wave of nausea. This damn guy could never say anything normal. Happiness Lane, number 108, Zhang Ruoyu gave the address, pride evident in his voice. "I got my first property at 18, I'd say I've won at the starting line." Han Jiangxue felt even worse after hearing that. Happiness Lane, a main area for demolition in the old part of Binhai City, had already been torn down quite a bit. Her first night of marriage, and she had to stay in a dangerous building. Han Jiangxue's mental defenses began to collapse. The luxury car drove through a wasteland, heading toward a 6-story building that looked ready to collapse. In the distance, several bulldozers were still working around the clock, creating deafening noise. "This is the first property you won at the starting line?" Han Jiangxue shot Zhang Ruoyu a sideways glance. Watching Zhang Ruoyu make a fool of himself was the only way she could vent her frustration right now. Zhang Ruoyu looked around for a moment, sighed, and said, "It's been 10 years since I last came back, and everything's changed." Han Jiangxue let out a humph but didn't continue to poke at his weakness. She said coldly, "Are you sure you want to stay here tonight? This dangerous building might have the water and electricity cut off, and the incessant noise from the construction site nearby was enough to give anyone a headache. It was impossible to sleep, and even staying here for a short while would drive someone crazy." "Of course," Zhang Ruoyu replied calmly. "And I've got some good news for you." "Huh?" Han Jiangxue furrowed her brows. Tonight seemed to be the darkest moment of her life. She was curious to know what good news he had. "When you're still complaining about marrying a worthless cook, this cook has just transformed into a demolition householder." Zhang Ruoyu opened the car window, his gaze determined as he lit a cigarette. "Let me tell you the truth, if I don't lose at least 18 million on this property, I'll rot in it." Screech. The Porsche braked sharply and stopped in front of the dilapidated building. Han Jiangxue wanted to tell Zhang Ruoyu that the company behind the demolition project in this area was her own Junxing Group. With just one phone call, she could easily have him compensated for not just 18 million, but even $1 billion. But looking at Zhang Ruoyu's shameless, cocky attitude, All Han Jiangxue wanted to do was watch him make a fool of himself. Come, let me show you our wedding house. Zhang Ruoyu got out of the car, heading toward the narrow hallway with ease. Upstairs, Zhang Ruoyu opened the door. The cramped living room could be seen at a glance. The old decor, outdated furniture, and the less than 50 square meter one-bedroom unit contained Zhang Ruoyu's memories of the past decade. To be fair, this place was even smaller than the study room in Han Jiangxue's house. Make yourself at home, just sit wherever. Zhang Ruoyu stepped inside first, adopting a hostess attitude. Han Jiangxue stepped in carefully, not daring to sit. She was afraid to step on something dirty with each movement. Was this a place to live? Han Jiangxue felt hopeless. Seeing Han Jiangxue standing in the living room, unsure of what to do, the dim light fell on her white, jade-like face, then slid down to her full chest and the graceful curve of her hips. Zhang Ruoyu exhaled a puff of smoke and stepped aside. There's hot water in the bathroom, go take a shower first. I'll make the bed. Han Jiangxue nearly had a heart attack. He was going to make the bed now? When she reached the bathroom, she was greeted with a shocking sight. The space was so small that even turning around was a challenge. The floor had been cleaned, but there were still stains that couldn't be wiped away. After cooling down for a few minutes in the bathroom, Han Jiangxue expressionlessly walked toward the master bedroom. Finish that quickly. Zhang Ruoyu had already made the bed, and was now laying out a mattress on the floor. He had previously mentioned that they could share the room but not the bed. When he turned around, he saw Han Jiangxue standing at the door, fully dressed. It didn't look like she had taken a shower, she probably hadn't even washed her hands. You don't shower before bed. Zhang Ruoyu muttered, clearly disgusted by this dirty woman. Can't you pay more attention to your personal hygiene? You think showering is about hygiene? Han Jiangxue's expression turned cold. Is your bathroom clean? What's wrong with it? Zhang Ruoyu adjusted the mattress, annoyed. I cleaned it just a few days ago, and it's spotless. If you find any dust, I'll lick it up for you. It's soaked into the walls, so you definitely can't feel it. Han Jiangxue's lips parted slightly, too lazy to argue. She glanced at the brand new bedding on the bed, and although the floor mattress was neat, it was clearly simple. Her frustration eased somewhat. At least this guy had kept his word and didn't intend to cross any boundaries. Zhang Ruoyu scoffed, annoyed. Lazy is lazy, stop making so many excuses. After a pause, he patted the mattress. Try the softness. If it's not good, I'll add another blanket for you. Try. Han Jiangxue's eyes widened in disbelief. What else? Zhang Ruoyu replied as if it were obvious. When I was in the army, I injured my back badly. The doctor told me I must sleep on a soft bed for my back. But someone like you, who sits in an office all day, sleeping on a hard bed is better for your spine. Han Jiangxue was completely dumbfounded. She had never met someone like Zhang Ruoyu, a shameless, ridiculous man with no boundaries. The most fatal thing was, she had just married him. Seeing Han Jiangxue standing there in stunned silence, Zhang Ruoyu yawned and said, I'm tired. Go shower and sleep. With that, he grabbed a red basin filled with toothpaste and towels and headed into the bathroom, too lazy to deal with this spoiled young lady who had a million flaws. You're the one who insisted on marrying me. Should I chase after you and kiss up to you now? Dream on. After a pleasant hot shower, Zhang Ruoyu walked out in his comfortable sleepwear, ready to settle into the couch for a pre-sleep cigarette when the door suddenly knocked. The knock was strong, deliberate, and filled with aggression. Zhang Ruoyu raised an eyebrow. He had just returned to Binhai, who would come knocking on his door at this hour. He lazily opened the door and scanned the man standing outside. He was handsome and well-built, with sharp eyebrows, bright eyes, and thin lips that looked merciless. His custom suit was impeccable, enhancing his cold, imposing aura. He stood in the doorway like a tower, exuding an almost suffocating pressure. Are you Zhang Ruoyu? The man's gaze was sharp, fixed on Zhang Ruoyu. I am. Zhang Ruoyu nodded slightly. The man he didn't recognize him. Is Han Jiangxue staying with you tonight? The man interrogated. As expected, it was about Han Jiangxue. A protector? An ex-boyfriend who still had feelings. Zhang Ruoyu gave an innocent smile. Yeah, she just finished showering and went to bed. You dare lay a hand on her? The man's entire body erupted with a killing intent. Your Zhang family's 8 generations of direct descent will end tonight. Chapter 3, Hands Off. For a moment, Zhang Ruoyu felt anger, but he quickly calmed down. Ever since the day he decided to retire, he had secretly warned himself, Zhang Ruoyu, when you lose the aura of Zhang Xiangbei, you'll no longer be the revered, battle god of Beimong. You'll lose your 300,000 loyal followers from Beimong. You need to be low-key. Leaning against the door, Zhang Ruoyu lit a cigarette with a calm demeanor. Before the man could speak again, he turned to the master bedroom and shouted, Xue Biao, come out for a moment. Xue Biao? Han Jiangxue, already feeling out of place, was struck with a sharp sense of discomfort that made her feel sick to her stomach. She shivered in revulsion. She opened the door and stepped out. Her beautiful eyes gave the man a brief glance before she turned to Zhang Ruoyu. What's the matter? Do you know him? Zhang Ruoyu raised his hand, holding the cigarette, and pointed at the man. Han Jiangxue, Han Jiangxue said calmly. My father's godson. Hearing this, Zhang Ruoyu, still leaning against the door, subconsciously straightened up. A smile that was both sincere and fake appeared on his face. Godbrother-in-law. He paused, then quickly invited Han Jiangxue into the room. Why didn't you say so earlier? Come in, make yourself at home. However, Han Jiangxue stood still at the door, his expression cold. Zhang Ruoyu noticed this but didn't he feel awkward. Without missing a beat, he suddenly slapped Han Jiangxue's full, rounded backside. Don't just stand there, go make some tea for your godbrother. I've got some fine tea in my suitcase. Han Jiangxue froze, as if struck by lightning. Han Jiangxue was equally stunned. He had just said that if Zhang Ruoyu dared to lay a hand on Han Jiangxue, the Zhang family's bloodline would end tonight. Zhang Ruoyu's actions were clearly a direct challenge to him. Han Jiangxue's eyes flashed with cold light, but he didn't move. He was waiting. Zhang Ruoyu's actions had indeed angered him. But Han Jiangxue knew that Han Jiangxue would be even angrier. As long as she spoke, he would immediately cripple Zhang Ruoyu. However, after a long pause, Han Jiangxue simply said, her face expressionless, don't lay your hands on me in front of others again. With that, she turned and walked back into the master bedroom. This scene made Han Jiangxue furrow his brows. He even started to suspect that Han Jiangxue had been kidnapped by Zhang Ruoyu. Usually, Han Jiangxue, the eldest daughter of the Han family, hated talking to men. Yet here she was, being slapped on the backside, and she didn't even get angry. What kind of drug had this ordinary-looking man slipped her? Little Han. After watching Han Jiangxue leave, Zhang Ruoyu took on the pose of a son-in-law from a prominent family, walking with his chest out and his head held high. From what I know about Xue Biao, you're definitely not getting any of this tea. Go back where you came from and don't waste our wedding night. Who is I, Zhang Ruoyu? A person who is invited to every family banquet of the Han family. You, on the other hand, are just someone who will eat in the corner with 2 chopsticks, and you think you can talk to me like that. Once Han Jiangxue left, Han Jiangxue stopped pretending. He gestured for Zhang Ruoyu to step into the corridor outside. Did you see them? Han Jiangxue pointed downstairs, where dozens of black Mercedes cars and over 100 bodyguards in suits stood by. A murderous aura enveloped the entire building. You trying to scare me? Zhang Ruoyu stuck his head out and took a look. It just looked like a bunch of bodyguards to him. He had a sudden feeling of being back in his old unit. If I say their word, they'll fight to right their wills. Han Jiangxue lit a cigarette, his tone cold. Don't push your luck. Ding ding. The sharp sound of a phone ringing interrupted. Zhang Ruoyu pulled the phone from his pocket, hung up, and then casually said, You continue. Han Jiangxue frowned. Coldly, he said, I know you have connections with the Han family, but you and Han Jiangxue this isn't possible. Before he could finish, Zhang Ruoyu's phone rang again. 2 consecutive interruptions from the phone made Han Jiangxue angry. But he had said everything he needed to say. Zhang Ruoyu hung up again and calmly said, Do you know we've already registered for the marriage? After tonight, no one will know, Han Jiangxue said confidently. Zhang Ruoyu stubbed out his cigarette and fell into deep thought. It seemed that Han Jiangxue wasn't the only one in the Han family who wanted to annul the marriage. Her father did too. Zhang Ruoyu, I advise you to be more realistic. Whether it's the difference in status or the gap in family backgrounds, you two are destined not to be together, Han Jiangxue spoke both softly and harshly. A toad wanting to eat swan meat is only something in fairy tales. There's no such thing in reality. You've hit the nail on the head. Zhang Ruoyu straightened his back and empathized. I've told Xue Bia repeatedly that I'm not interested in romance. I'm just waiting to spread my wings and soar across the world. How can I be trapped in a small pond? But she cried and shouted that she wouldn't marry anyone but me, and I wouldn't marry anyone but her. She even threatened to take her own life. The reason I registered for marriage was purely out of humanitarianism. Zhang Ruoyu summed it up with a tone full of grievance and restraint. Han Jiangxue's eyes glinted coldly. How dare you think of yourself as some swan about to spread its wings? The pride of the Han family, reduced to a toad at the bottom of a well. Just as he was about to get angry, Zhang Ruoyu's phone rang again. Han Jiangxue's anger flared, but he suppressed it. You'd better answer. A cook who had been in the military for 10 years, how could he have so many business dealings? Zhang Ruoyu cleared his throat, and as soon as he answered, he raised his voice. What? All 5,000 brothers from the 8 elite divisions of Beimong are coming to my wedding? They are even coming to make trouble at the wedding? Even the newly appointed General Long, the young marshal of Beimong, is coming personally. Zhang Ruoyu took a glance at Han Jiangxue and diplomatically said, Is it really necessary to make such a big fuss? Didn't you just receive medals in the capital last night? You've been busy enough. I'm just a simple cook, you don't have to make such a big deal of it. What? You've already arrived in Binhai? You'll be here in 10 minutes. Well, you should let me know earlier. I've got nothing prepared. Han Jiangxue frowned as he listened. The elite forces of Beimong coming to drink his wedding wine? To make trouble at his wedding? These were the most elite combat troops of China, and they were also the direct descendants of the legendary General Zhang Xianbei. The newly appointed young marshal of Beimong, Long Fei, was a rising star in the military. Such a high-ranking military leader coming to celebrate the wedding of a cook. If you can't even bluff properly, how are you going to survive? Han Jiangxue wants to spend her life with this kind of man. Forget about the big boss, even an outsider like him wouldn't he agree? Little Han, why don't you come back another day? After hanging up, Zhang Ruoyu lit another cigarette and casually said, You heard it too. My brothers from the old unit are coming to my wedding, and they'll be here in 10 minutes. If they run into your men, there might be some misunderstandings. Misunderstandings can be cleared up, Han Jiangxue said coldly. 10 minutes from now, if your brothers aren't here, my people will come upstairs. With that, he gestured to the group of bodyguards in black suits downstairs. They were eager to move, their eyes filled with murderous intent. By the way, we're kind of related. Why go through all this? Zhang Ruoyu said helplessly. If I were you, I'd pack my bags and leave Binhai right now. Don't ever come back, Han Jiangxue pressed, leaving no room for negotiation. I told you, it was Han Jiangxue who forced me to marry her, Zhang Ruoyu said with some grievance. Is it wrong to be a simple and kind-hearted swan? Han Jiangxue's heart trembled, and he almost pushed Zhang Ruoyu off the 5th floor. 10 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. Han Jiangxue's eyes were fixed on the corner of the road. That was the only entrance to this dilapidated building. If the 5,000 elite soldiers of Beimong were really coming, they'd crush this broken road, wouldn't they? They are here, Zhang Ruoyu said, taking a drag from his cigarette and narrowing his eyes. Han Jiangxue looked up, his gaze sharp. Chapter 4, The Dwarf General. At the dimly lit street corner, the grand procession of the Beimong Army never arrived. Instead, a red taxi, covered in mud, appeared. The driver cursed as he collected the fare, then shoved the 3 passengers, dressed in old-fashioned clothes, out of the car. He slammed the accelerator, and the splashing mud, whether intentional or not, drenched them all. But the 3 passengers remained unmoved, simply standing in line and waiting by the entrance of the building. Where are the 5,000 elite troops from Beimong? Han Jiangxue crushed the cigarette in his hand and coldly asked. Whereas the young Marshal Long Fei. Although Han Jiangxue had already suspected Zhang Ruoyu was lying, for a moment, he hoped that Zhang Ruoyu wasn't bluffing. Which man in China didn't admire the Beimong Army? Who didn't want to meet the legendary young Marshal Long Fei? He was a living legend. But looking at the 3 misfit men downstairs, none of them looked like Long Fei. In fact, they were even less impressive than Zhang Ruoyu. The one at the front, that Long Fei, the young marshal of Beimong. Zhang Ruoyu pointed to the short man, barely 5 feet 7 inches. Are you sure? Han Jiangxue's eyes flashed with a cold, dangerous light. They had come this far, and now Zhang Ruoyu was still lying. Of course, I've known him for over 10 years. I would recognize him even if he turned to ashes. Zhang Ruoyu raised an eyebrow. Though he is not very tall, only about 5 feet 7 inches when wearing shoes, his combat strength in the Beimong Army is second only to Zhang Xianbei, the soul of Beimong. He is truly the number 2 figure in the army. Zhang Ruoyu ignored the murderous look on Han Jiangxue's face and continued with a confident tone, by the way, Long Fei has a nickname in Beimong that perfectly suits his stature and role. Without caring whether Han Jiangxue was interested, Zhang Ruoyu casually blurted out, the dwarf general. Han Jiangxue's face darkened to an extreme, feeling as though his intelligence had been insulted. Just as he was about to order his men to rush upstairs, Zhang Ruoyu waved his hand and said, "Let us go. I'll introduce you to these Beimong legends. You're lucky to be in my company. Ordinarily, you wouldn't even be qualified to greet them." Han Jiangxue hesitated for a moment but followed Zhang Ruoyu downstairs. It was easier to handle things downstairs without disturbing Han Jiangxue's peace. "Our Fei." As soon as they stepped out of the hallway, Zhang Ruoyu strode forward. "Just now your deputy called and said all 5,000 elite troops from Beimong are coming to drink my wedding wine? How come it's just you guys? Where are they?" It sounded like Zhang Ruoyu was asking for Han Jiangxue, but Han Jiangxue stood aside, watching Zhang Ruoyu's poor acting with interest. "The full 5,000 are coming, but it's too big of a movement, and the high-ranking officials in Binhai can't sit still." The short man, who seemed nervous, spoke as he trembled. His body visibly shook, but his eyes never left Zhang Ruoyu, as if he feared he might suddenly vanish. "Little Han, did you hear that?" Zhang Ruoyu glanced at Han Jiangxue and sneered. "General Long Fei is thinking of Binhai. If all of them came, the traffic in the city might collapse." Han Jiangxue heard this and slid his hands into his pockets, his face cold as he walked forward. He was 6 feet 0 inches and towered over the shorter man. "Do you know what the penalty is for impersonating a soldier?" "What did you say?" The short man slightly lifted his head, his dark eyes flashing with an intensity that made Han Jiangxue's heart jump in alarm. But Han Jiangxue wasn't an ordinary person. He straightened his posture, raised his voice, and fiercely questioned, "I said. Do you know how many years you'll get for impersonating a national hero?" As soon as the words left his mouth, dozens of bodyguards in suits rushed over, surrounding the three of them tightly. In an instant, the tension in the air was palpable. The short man lifted his head. Despite his short stature, the oppressive aura emanating from him easily crushed the aggression from Han Jiangxue. "I'm not impersonating anyone." The short man's thin lips parted, speaking each word with emphasis. "My name is Long Fei." "You're Long Fei?" "I am Long Fei's father." Han Jiangxue spat angrily. Before he could finish, Long Fei, who was half a head shorter than him, slapped him across the face. Although Han Jiangxue quickly raised his arm to block, the slap was so powerful that it not only hit his arm but also landed hard on his face. Slap! Han Jiangxue staggered back, feeling his face burn with pain, his vision swimming with stars. The slap sent the entire scene into chaos. His henchmen, furious, started shouting, wanting to take down the ignorant shorty. Dazed, Han Jiangxue spat blood, yanked his tie, and screamed in a fit of rage, "Even if the 5,000 troops from Beimong actually show up tonight, I will still kill you all." As he spoke, his followers rushed forward like wolves, charging at Long Fei and his men. "Big brother, calm down." Zhang Ruoyu quickly stepped in between, acting as the peacemaker. "Don't be impulsive, the consequences will be unimaginable." Han Jiangxue's face was twisted with fury. "What consequences?" "They'll kill you," Zhang Ruoyu said, his tone full of concern, as though he genuinely feared for Han Jiangxue's safety. Han Jiangxue, blinded by rage, lost all reason. "Attack!" Dozens of well-trained bodyguards in suits surged forward, ready to strike, but Long Fei remained remarkably calm. He drew a gun from his waist and pointed it directly at Han Jiangxue's forehead. "Try moving." The black muzzle of the gun seemed like an abyss, exuding a murderous aura. The henchmen, who had been so eager to act, immediately froze when their leader was threatened with a gun. "How many bullets do you have?" Han Jiangxue was unafraid. He even leaned into the gun, his eyes burning with malice. Are you going to kill all of us? Spitting out blood, Han Jiangxue let out a low growl, even as the gun was pressed against his forehead, his posture hunched like a wild beast ready to strike. Kill them. His desperation infected his henchmen, who now all had bloodshot eyes and looked like beasts ready to pounce. Long Fei frowned, his temper flaring up instantly. Just moments ago, Zhang Ruoyu had made it clear over the phone to keep things low-key, not to make a spectacle like a military parade. But now, Zhang Ruoyu was warning Han Jiangxue to be careful, not to push Long Fei too far, as they would need to work together in the future. Though the tension seemed to escalate, Long Fei kept looking at Zhang Ruoyu's face, unwilling to make any rash moves. At this moment, Han Jiangxue was losing his mind, ready to die over this. Long Fei couldn't he just shoot him, could he? Brother, don't blame me, he is forcing my hand. Long Fei turned to glance at Zhang Ruoyu, who seemed uninterested in the drama unfolding. Long Fei's face suddenly grew serious. Just when everyone thought Long Fei was about to shoot Han Jiangxue, causing a bloody disaster, he suddenly tossed the gun to his deputy and shouted in a powerful voice, "Beimong Army, step forward." Boom! In an instant, it was as if thousands of bulldozers were operating at once, causing the ground to tremble. The entire dark demolition area lit up like day, with countless spotlights flooding the scene. Behind the bright lights, towering figures stood like steel giants. 5,000 of the most elite soldiers from Beimong's forces, members of Zhang Xiangbei's inner circle, emerged from the shadows, like divine warriors descending from the heavens. They were the sharpest sword of the nation, the guardians of the people. Their names were known worldwide. They were the strongest ground combat forces on the planet. They had longed to see the young marshal, even if it meant doing so quietly, in the shadows, with no fanfare. But Han Jiangxue had forced these 5,000 elite soldiers out into the open. Chapter 5, We Are True Love. Under the glaring strong lights, the 5,000 elite soldiers of the North Mang Army stood like a towering presence before the dangerous high rise. They remained motionless, but an overwhelming pressure that could move mountains and rivers emanated from them. The group of desperados brought by Han Jiangxue were all hardened men who had tasted blood. But when they witnessed this scene, each one of them turned pale, their legs trembling uncontrollably. Han Jiangxue was also stunned. The anger he had thought could only be extinguished by blood instantly dissipated. What was the big deal? Wasn't he just a slap in the face? Was Han Jiangxue such a petty person? After the 5,000 elite North Mang soldiers appeared, no one paid attention to the clowns. Every soldier, like Long Fei, was tense and shivering, their pitch-black eyes locked onto Zhang Ruoyu, as though they feared he might suddenly vanish again, never to be seen. Zhang Xiangbei, the soul of the North Mang Army, the god in the hearts of the soldiers. But these heroic men of North Mang had no reason to visit a retired cook so often. Their higher-ups had issued strict orders this would be the last time. After tonight, Zhang Xiangbei would be no more, and only Zhang Ruoyu would remain. The soldiers' blood was boiling, emotions running wild. At attention! Long Fei's eyes turned red, and he saluted Zhang Ruoyu. Old squad leader. Congratulations on your marriage. The sound of stomping echoed through the entire demolition area. Old squad leader. Congratulations on your marriage. Now, they couldn't recognize each other in person. In the future, they would long to meet but be unable to. An endless sense of tragic heroism filled the night sky. Zhang Ruoyu returned a standard military salute, his face filled with the pride of a petty person who had succeeded. A retired cook being congratulated on his wedding by 5,000 elite soldiers of the North Mang Army, it was worth gloating, wasn't he it? But deep in his eyes was a turbulent sea of emotions, filled with sadness. After the North Mang Army finished their salute and stood at ease, Long Fei's gaze turned to Han Jiangxue, the instigator of tonight's drama. He stepped forward, his height not even reaching 1.7 meters, but his presence was as heavy as Mount Tai, pressing down on Han Jiangxue until he could hardly breathe. You just said that even if my 5,000 subordinates arrived, you'd still kill me. Long Fei's eyes gleamed fiercely. Slap. Without a word, Han Jiangxue raised his hand and slapped himself across the face. Sorry. The slap was loud and clear. The apology rang out even more loudly, piercing the night sky. His godfather always said, if you make a mistake, admit it. If you get slapped, stand firm. My father died in a border defense battle 15 years ago, Long Fei squinted and asked. Are you my father? Slap. Another slap. Han Jiangxue slapped his left cheek, then his right cheek. 2 slaps turned his face into a swollen mess, showing just how much force he had used. Sorry. Han Jiangxue shouted, his voice hoarse. Tonight, you. Enough. Zhang Ruoyu suddenly interjected, adopting an elder-s tone as an old squad leader. Fei, have you had enough of showing off your North Mangyung martial-s might? Are you really going to kill my brother-in-law? Long Fei paused, hesitating for a long time before finally replying, fine, I'll give the old squad leader face. With that, he waved his hand and shouted at the reluctant North Mang soldiers behind him, fall back. The North Mang soldiers came suddenly and left just as swiftly. Once the area cleared, Long Fei walked up to Zhang Ruoyu, pressed his lips together, and said, bro, if you ever run into any trouble, call me. Right now, when the North Mang army is overseas, people avoid us. I want to see how many blind idiots in the country dare provoke us. I've been through 10 years of war, fought countless battles, which fool dares to mess with me? Zhang Ruoyu raised an eyebrow and glanced at Han Jiangxue. Long Fei didn't say anything more. His brothers had come, they had seen, and after attending the memorial service for Zhang Xiangbei in the coastal city, the North Mang army would retreat. Bro, take care. Long Fei saluted once more. Take care. Zhang Ruoyu returned the salute. Watching Long Fei and his men leave, Zhang Ruoyu felt mixed emotions. He glanced at Han Jiangxue, who was still bruised and swollen, and coldly said, Little Han, you owe me a life. Han Jiangxue froze, dazed. If I hadn't stopped it just now, Long Fei would have definitely killed you. Han Jiangxue's heart skipped a beat, but he didn't have the courage to argue. Insulting and threatening the young marshal of North Mang, and even trying to call him his father. It was indeed a great crime. But don't worry, you're my brother-in-law, I won't spread the word about your disgrace tonight, Zhang Ruoyu said with a serious face. Han Jiangxue twitched his lips. Thank you. Now, tell me, Zhang Ruoyu said nonchalantly. Did my father-in-law send you here? It was my own idea, Han Jiangxue quickly took the blame. Betraying his godfather. He would never dare. Seeing Han Jiangxue's fearful appearance, Zhang Ruoyu understood but didn't press further. It wasn't easy to live with this trouble on the first night of marriage, and even though this marriage might not last long, Zhang Ruoyu didn't want to live in constant fear. After thinking for a moment, Zhang Ruoyu firmly said, Jiangxue and I are true love. Don't try to break us up, it's useless. Han Jiangxue snorted coldly. True love already. More like true love for the Han family's money, right? Get lost, Zhang Ruoyu extinguished his cigarette. I'm going to the bridal chamber. With that, he strolled upstairs, leaving Han Jiangxue and his men standing downstairs. After pondering for a moment, Han Jiangxue took out his phone and made a call. Starting tonight, all work in the demolition area is suspended. The lady is a light sleeper and is afraid of noise. Then, he turned to glare at his trembling subordinates and said coldly, if anyone leaks a word of what happened tonight, I'll kill whoever it is. If the news of the cold-faced king of hell being beaten into a swollen mess spread, Han Jiangxue wouldn't survive. Chapter 6, A Wedding to Bring Good Luck. Arriving at the master bedroom, Zhang Ruoyu saw Han Jiangxue sitting on the floor. She had big breasts and long legs, a thin waist and plump buttocks, and a face that was both domineering and lustful. Zhang Ruoyu had seen many such top-notch girls. Zhang Ruoyu stared at her for a long time before moving away his absolutely legal gaze and throwing himself on the soft big bed. Before Han Jiangxue, who was offended by his gaze, could get angry, Zhang Ruoyu took the initiative. Before we got married, I saw you were so impatient, I thought your whole family liked me very much. Zhang Ruoyu felt deceived and complained, it turns out that except you, they don't like me. After exhaling, Zhang Ruoyu turned over and said, to be honest, you make me very passive. I don't know how to manage this marriage. Han Jiangxue's queen face was cold, and she said coldly, if you can't manage it, don't manage it. Just divorce me, it's a good time to break up. Can you stop being a grudge? If I can divorce you, you can enter the door of my Zhang family. Zhang Ruoyu couldn't help but glance at Han Jiangxue's plump body like a peach, and pouted. Who can't see that I look at you with disgust? Han Jiangxue was so angry that her hands and feet were cold and she gritted her teeth. Okay, now that things have come to this, is internal strife useful? Zhang Ruoyu waved his hand and said cautiously. In order to divorce smoothly in the future, we must unite our front and share resources. After a moment of silence, Zhang Ruoyu asked, "Why do you have to marry me? Judging from your family's attitude towards me, they seem to be more resistant to this marriage than you." Han Jiangxue gradually calmed down after hearing what Zhang Ruoyu said. This marriage has already been concluded even if she doesn't want to, and it won't help to hold her breath and feel depressed. Adjusting her mentality, Han Jiangxue said lightly, "In order to force me to get married, my grandmother hasn't eaten for 2 days." Zhang Ruoyu frowned and looked at Han Jiangxue's fiery body carefully. "Do you have any hidden illness that is difficult to talk about? Or are you seriously ill and will not live long? You are sick." Han Jiangxue's heart, which had just calmed down, was in turmoil again. "That's not right," Zhang Ruoyu said incredulously. "I am just a cook. I became a squad leader after I retired. Your Han family is a top family in Binhai. You are not much different from me. Is the old lady threatening to die? Is she so afraid that you won't be able to get married? Grandma said that as long as she is alive, the Han family cannot do anything treacherous. Unless you break off the engagement, I must marry you." Han Jiangxue glanced at Zhang Ruoyu. "What about you? Why marry me?" The atmosphere in the room gradually became peaceful. Zhang Ruoyu lay quietly on the bed, his dark eyes staring at the mottled ceiling. "My parents died when I was young, and my aunt raised me with great difficulty. Although she is only 5 years older than me and has no blood relationship with me, she has been alone to raise me, and her health is getting worse and worse." With a sigh, Zhang Ruoyu said in a deep voice, "My aunt's biggest wish is to see me get married and start a family, and continue the Zhang family. I can't bear to make her sad." Han Jiangxue's eyes flashed with waves, but she said indifferently, "Even if you marry me, you can't fulfill your aunt's wish. So I told you in advance that even in marriage, I will not stop pursuing true love. I can't let my aunt down." Zhang Ruoyu exhaled and pursed his lips. "As for our agreement to get married, just treat it as a blessing from my aunt. Let her be happier every day." Han Jiangxue wanted to scold, but considering that Zhang Ruoyu was also very hardworking, she endured it. Tonight, the two of them were honest with each other. As long as they cooperate tacitly in the future, divorce is just a matter of time. At least Han Jiangxue thinks so. "Did you see what happened downstairs just now?" In the darkness, Zhang Ruoyu suddenly asked. "Yeah." Han Jiangxue replied indifferently. "Don't spread the news that my brother-in-law was beaten everywhere," Zhang Ruoyu said. "We are all family, don't do things too extreme. If you don't say it, no one will know." Han Jiangxue frowned. But he finally believed what Zhang Ruoyu said when they first met. He did have a friendship with Zhang Xiangbei. Otherwise, how could the elite of Beimong go to war for a cook? "I guess it's all about nostalgia. I mean, you can't even tell your family," Zhang Ruoyu said meaningfully. "If they know that I have such a strong relationship in Beimong, it will be bad for our divorce." In the darkness, Han Jiangxue's bright eyes flashed with intricate brilliance. After a long while, she said word by word, "We in the Han family are not so snobbish." "Yes, you Han family are all saints," Zhang Ruoyu said suddenly. Han Jiangxue closed her beautiful eyes and ignored Zhang Ruoyu's teasing. She turned over gently, but her brows could not help but frown. The floor was too hard, and turning over hurt her hips. A few minutes later, there was a snoring sound like an electric drill beside the bed. Zhang Ruoyu had fainted while she was not paying attention. Well, the noise on the construction site just stopped, and this guy started to work. Chapter 7 I didn't care. Early in the morning, Grandma called and said she wanted to see her grandson-in-law. Han Jiangxue, who hadn't slept all night, had to drive over. But seeing Zhang Ruoyu eating xiaolong babo energetically, Han Jiangxue felt a little aggrieved and even a little jealous of his strong sleep quality. When they arrived at the Han family villa, they were about to go in to see the Han family's old Buddha, but were blocked by a drunk young man. The young man had messy hair and a decadent temperament. Although his facial features were handsome, his eyes were bloodshot. Looking at his terrible mental state, he should have not slept all night like Han Jiangxue. Bang! Before the two of them came forward, the young man suddenly swung a bottle of wine and smashed it in front of Zhang Ruoyu. The wine splashed all over the floor, and glass shards flew everywhere. Han Jiangxue, if you dare to bring this trash into the Han family gate today, you are not my sister. The young man stood up suddenly, his eyes full of anger, even grief. Han Jiangxue frowned and said coldly, Han Dong, what are you crazy about? I'm crazy. Han Dong's strong body blocked the door and said excitedly. Yesterday, Zhang Xiangbei, the man I admired most in my life, died fighting for the country. Or yesterday. Han Jiangxue, the woman I admired most, married a useless man who had been a cook for 10 years. You, Han Jiangxue, are also dead in my heart. Han Dong said in a low voice. This night, he experienced too many stimulations. Last night, more than 30,000 cadets of Binhai Military Academy got drunk after learning the obituary of the legendary god of war Zhang Xiangbei's death, as if the end of the world had come. Han Dong was one of them. What was more desperate than his classmates was that the woman he admired most, a woman who only Zhang Xiangbei in the world could match, a woman who could only marry Zhang Xiangbei, married a cook. A cook who was still serving in the Beimong Army. Han Dong completely collapsed. Zhang Ruoyu saw this scene and felt a little sympathetic to the child. When he held a retirement ceremony at the secret base, several cold female officers who came to see him off burst into tears on the spot. Now, the two mountains in Han Dong's heart have collapsed. It is normal to have an overreaction. Zhang Ruoyu does not blame him. With his toes drawing a few circles on the ground, Zhang Ruoyu put his hands in his pockets, inadvertently took 2 steps back, and hid behind Han Jiangxue. Then he poked Han Jiangxue with his elbow and whispered, "You can handle it. I won't be too harsh." Seeing this scene, Han Dong cursed, "Zhang, do you have any shame? Hiding behind a woman like a turtle. If you have the guts, come out, I will fight you one-on-one." Zhang Ruoyu did not move after the call, but Han Jiangxue came over with great vigor. Han Dong was a little scared by his sister's accumulated power for many years, but he was still drunk, so he could stand it. Par. As soon as Han Jiangxue approached, she raised her hand and slapped Han Dong's head hard. At this moment, Han Dong was completely sober, and his face was full of fear. Zhang Ruoyu, who was standing far away, was also shocked. He didn't know how hard he hit her, but she hit him hard. If you dare to repeat what you just said in front of me after you sober up, I will believe that you are really promising. Han Jiangxue said coldly. Now, get out of here. Han Dong was so scared that he ran away. Even my father dared to do something bad about my sister's marriage. He was just going crazy because he was drunk. He didn't have the courage to do so after sobering up. Xiao Dong, your brother-in-law will give you a life advice. Zhang Ruoyu reached into his pockets with both hands and said with a smile. Don't pretend when you have nothing to do. It's easy to get hurt. Han Dong cursed angrily and turned around and ran away. Han Jiangxue looked at Zhang Ruoyu's mean look and didn't say anything. After yesterday's contact, she knew that Xiao Dong would definitely not be able to play with Zhang Ruoyu, especially his broken mouth. If he really started to spray, Xiao Dong, who was hungover, might get angry. On the contrary, this marriage will only last for 3 to 5 months at best, and this guy definitely doesn't want to offend all the Han family members. After all, no matter whether it is a marriage or a divorce, Han Shixiao, Han Dong, and even his father who has not been in Binhai for many years, are marginal people, and their attitudes are of no value at all. Zhang Ruoyu guessed that he was too lazy to waste his saliva with them. What does your grandma hate? What is taboo? What do I have to become to make your grandma hate me? On the way upstairs, Zhang Ruoyu asked cautiously. Sure enough, this guy is very smart, knowing who is the key to the future divorce and who to put his strength on. Don't play deliberately, just be yourself. Han Jiangxue paced forward, his face indifferent. I believe grandma will definitely not like you. Then I'm relieved. The two came to the door of grandma's room. Before Han Jiangxue knocked on the door, Zhang Ruoyu, with his hands in his pockets, kicked the door open and walked in swaggeringly. Chapter 8. She has Mercury retrograde this year. Han Jiangxue stood there dumbfounded as she watched Zhang Ruoyu break into the room. This kick was somewhat of a performance. Before Han Jiangxue entered the room, Zhang Ruoyu's loud and angry shout came from the room. Little old lady. If you really don't want to fulfill the marriage contract, I don't blame you. But I, Zhang Ruoyu, have been in the army for 10 years and I am a tough man. Even if I get married, I will be humiliated by your Han family in every way. Do you really treat me as a son-in-law? When Han Jiangxue entered the room, she saw Zhang Ruoyu standing by the dining table, panting, yelling at grandma who was eating breakfast, without any manners. On the other hand, Grandma looked at Zhang Ruoyu with a kind face. How could she be angry? Her eyes were even full of appreciation and love. Han Jiangxue frowned slightly. This little old lady was not right. She usually paid the most attention to etiquette and cultivation. Anyone who yelled loudly at home would be scolded. What happened today? After a moment of observation, old lady Han smiled kindly and praised, as expected of a military background, your voice is loud and full of energy. After a pause, old lady Han waved her hand and said, Ruoyu, come here and have breakfast with Grandma. Zhang Ruoyu raised his eyebrows, and although he sat down on the dining chair, he pouted and said, I have eaten, enjoy your meal. Hearing this, old lady Han also put down her bowl and chopsticks, continued to observe Zhang Ruoyu, and smiled, Ruoyu, you just said that our Han family humiliated you. Tell Grandma who they are, I will drive them out of the Han family and remove them from the family tree. Zhang Ruoyu's heart skipped a beat after hearing this, and seeing that the old lady looked determined and didn't seem to be joking, he was a little embarrassed for a while. But he kept in mind the purpose of this trip, and after a moment of hesitation, he teased, Grandma Han, if you really want to play such a big game, there will be no one left in the Han family. Grandma Han said kindly, Ruoyu, Grandma will tell you the truth. As long as you are happy and willing to call me Grandma, I can exchange 3 grandchildren for you. Zhang Ruoyu was a little overwhelmed. She glanced at Han Jiangxue, who was also stunned. It was obvious that the jewel in the Han family's palm was also dumbfounded. But at this moment, whether out of true feelings or to cooperate with Zhang Ruoyu, she had to say something. Grandma. Even if you count your granddaughter, there are only 3 grandchildren in total. Why, for a grandson-in-law, are you going to make the Han family extinct? Han Jiangxue said mercilessly, feeling annoyed. This little old lady is not following the script at all. This is just an exaggerated way of embellishment to express my love for Ruoyu. Old lady Han rolled her eyes at her granddaughter and curled her lips. Look at you, you are desperate. Why are you bullying my Ruoyu too? Han Jiangxue was stunned, and her worldview was completely shattered. Zhang Ruoyu was also numb. He claimed to have seen a lot of storms, but this little old lady was too abstract and unpredictable. Since Xiexue is mentioned, I have something to say. Zhang Ruoyu lit a cigarette in front of the old lady, tilted his head and took 2 puffs, fearing that the old lady didn't know that he was addicted to smoking. Ruoyu, just say it. No matter what, Grandma will make the decision for you. Old lady Han was kind and amiable, and her smile was so kind. When Xiexue first met me, she disliked me for being a cook, saying that I smelled of oil smoke and that she didn't like me anyway. She forced me to sign a prenuptial agreement before we got the marriage certificate, fearing that I would take advantage of her. On the wedding night, she forced me to sleep on the floor and put a knife under my pillow. Zhang Ruoyu finished speaking without even taking a breath, his face full of grief and anger. Old lady, I am so frustrated in this marriage. Han Jiangxue was dumbfounded. Knowing that Zhang Ruoyu made up lies to pave the way for future divorce, this bastard was too mean. He destroyed himself in order to disgust his grandmother. Asshole. Old lady Han slammed the table and glared at her beloved granddaughter. Kneel down. Kneel down, you big-headed ghost. Han Jiangxue shook her face and slammed the door. As soon as she left, old lady Han sighed indifferently, as if she had known that her precious granddaughter would never kneel. Ruoyu, Xiexue was not like this before. Old lady Han said tactfully. I understand. Zhang Ruoyu said with a sense of loss. It seems that my appearance has completely destroyed her life. It's none of your business. Old lady Han hurriedly distanced herself from the matter, fearing that her grandson-in-law would have some mental baggage. In fact, Xiexue has encountered several life-threatening accidents in the past few months. A week ago, she was almost hit and killed by a 30-meter-long truck. A strange color flashed in Zhang Ruoyu's eyes, and he frowned slightly and said, it seems that she has retrograde Mercury this year. I have also had retrograde Mercury before, and even drinking water made my teeth ache. Old lady Han was stunned, and her breath was slightly disordered. Since Xiexue took over the family business 5 years ago, she has offended many people inside and outside the group, and some people even said that she will not live beyond next year. Old lady Han said worriedly. Ruoyu, what do you think about this? A trace of worry appeared on Zhang Ruoyu's face, and he said solemnly, if Xiexue and I get married, will we also be implicated? Old Lady Han obviously didn't expect Zhang Ruoyu to think this way. She slowly raised her thumbs and praised sincerely, as expected of a person from Beimong, his sense of crisis is world class. Zhang Ruoyu ignored the old lady's flattery and frowned. Old lady, you are going on a hunger strike to force us to get married, aren't you just asking me to block the bullet for Jiangxue? I guarantee it with my personality. Old Lady Han said loudly. I never thought about it in this way. Seeing that Zhang Ruoyu still didn't believe it, Old Lady Han said again, if you really encounter danger in the future, don't worry about anything, push Jiangxue up, and hide behind her. If I really do this, will it be less manly? Zhang Ruoyu hesitated. Ruoyu, your parents died early, and you are the only child in the Zhang family. You can't get into trouble. Old Lady Han said firmly. You are not like me. I have 3 grandchildren. I can afford to lose 1 or 2. Zhang Ruoyu walked out of the room sweating profusely and ran into Han Jiangxue, who was holding her breath in the corridor. He grabbed Han Jiangxue, who was in a bad mood, and poked his temple. Is there something wrong with your grandma? You are the one with a problem in your brain. Han Jiangxue glared at Zhang Ruoyu coldly. But after saying that, she felt a little guilty. Grandma was indeed abnormal today. It's only been a few days since I last saw her. Why is her taste so strong? But when Han Jiangxue thought of her grandma's love for Zhang Ruoyu, she felt annoyed. But she was annoyed, and Zhang Ruoyu was even more depressed. What's your attitude? Zhang Ruoyu's face sank and he said indignantly. For our future, do you know how much pressure I have to play a jerk? It's fine if you don't cooperate, but you're still giving me a hard time. Han Jiangxue, I warn you, divorce is not just my business, you should act quickly too. Otherwise, with your grandma's passionate attitude towards me, we won't be able to get divorced even when we are 80 years old. My life is over. After saying that, he turned away. Chapter 9: The Bully. After going downstairs, several servants were busy pouring tea and water for the new son-in-law. Zhang Ruoyu sipped his tea and glanced at Han Jiangxue, who hadn't taken a bath. He said with resentment, I can smell the rotten smell from such a distance. Can you pay attention to personal hygiene? Will you die if you take a bath? Han Jiangxue, who had just sat down, stood up angrily, but because he stood up too quickly and was angry, his face turned pale. Han Jiangxue always loves cleanliness, even a bit of a germaphobe. If it weren't for the bad environment of Zhang Ruoyu's house, she wouldn't have undressed and stayed up all night. She glared at Zhang Ruoyu with her knife-like eyes, went upstairs to take a shower with a cold face, and was extremely desperate. Han Dong, who was secretly observing, saw this scene, and a surge of anger rushed to his head. This grandson is not only arrogant to himself as soon as he becomes a son-in-law, but he also doesn't treat his sister well. What, is he a bully after marrying into our Han family? Han Dong ran back to his room in a rage, grabbed his phone and called Han Shixiao. Brother Xiao, didn't you look for that grandson last night? Han Shixiao, who has always been daring and responsible, stammered, I entertained a group of big shots from the capital last night, which delayed the time. It was too late when I was done, and I was afraid that it would affect your sister's rest. Can you delay my sister's life event? Han Dong said angrily. Do you know that grandson came to my house? Do you know how crazy he is? Han Shixiao opened his mouth, hesitant to speak. No matter how arrogant he is today, he can't be more arrogant than last night. Brother Xiao, one word, when are you going to deal with him? Han Dong couldn't bear it for a second. Wait a few days until those big shots from Beijing leave and then do it. Han Shixiao said tactfully. Xiaodong, you should have heard the news. There is a big thing happening in Binhai these days. It will be difficult to end if it gets out of hand. Hearing this, Han Dong forced himself to suppress his violent emotions and asked anxiously, Brother Xiao, is the big thing you are talking about the memorial service for my idol Zhang Xiangbei? Yes. Han Shixiao nodded lightly. The memorial service will be held in 3 days, and General Zhang's ashes will also be buried in Binhai. It is said that all the legendary figures of the Beimong Army are here. The whole city is on alert, and even the Binhai military region is on standby 24 hours a day. Han Dong took a deep breath and was fascinated. As expected of the legendary war god whom he had admired for many years, the leader of Beimong, even his funeral and memorial service caused a sensation in the whole city. Han Dong hesitated for a moment, and his attitude suddenly changed. we can put off the matter of dealing with that grandson, but for another thing, Brother Xiao, you must help me with it immediately. What is it? Han Xiao was inexplicably nervous, wondering if he had lost confidence after being beaten last night. About my idol. Han Dong said solemnly. As far as I know, this memorial service is not open to the public. You need a pass to enter. Brother Xiao, please help me get a few tickets. How many? Han Xiao's voice suddenly became sharp. I don't know if he was asking Han Dong how many tickets he wanted, or was shocked that he actually wanted to get a few tickets. More than 40 tickets. Han Dong shrugged. He is the spiritual idol of our class. Have you drunk too much fake wine? On the other end of the phone, Han Xiao's tone became extremely irritable. Do you know that this memorial service is directly under the charge of the Beimong Army? The reason why it is held in our Binhai is just because General Zhang's ancestral home is in Binhai. So what? Han Dong couldn't understand why Brother Xiao suddenly got so angry. He was usually a very stable person. What does this have to do with how many passes I get? Why doesn't it have anything to do with it? Han Xiao's voice became louder and louder. The tickets were all given by Beimong. The Binhai authorities only got 15 in total, and the Binhai military region, as a brother unit, only got 10. In other words, there are only 25 people in our entire Binhai area who are qualified to go to the memorial site. You kid asked me for more than 40 tickets. I carried a pack of explosives to the Beimong Army's base to grab them for you. Han Dong was scolded and fainted. After hesitating for a while, he felt that he was asking for too much, so he said with grievance, then it's okay to get 4 tickets. The 4 brothers in our dormitory are all die-hard fans of General Zhang. We will regret it for the rest of our lives if we can't see our idol off for the last time. Which of the more than 30,000 military academy students in your school is not a die-hard fan of Zhang Xiangbei? Among the more than 3 million soldiers in the country, which one is not a die-hard fan of Zhang Xiangbei? Not to mention the soldiers, how many ordinary citizens don't regard him as a national hero? According to what you said, should the Beimong Army hold General Zhang's urn and hold a national performance so that you die-hard fans will not have any regrets? Han Dong frowned and said dissatisfiedly, Brother Xiao, forget it if you can't get the tickets, don't make fun of my idol. Did Brother Xiao get shot? Or was he stimulated by something? Why is he so angry today? Han Xiao also realized that his emotions were a little out of control. He subjectively imagined that the slaps last night might have made his brain stupid. He said, I really can't get the ticket. The big shots in Binhai who got the ticket are unlikely to give it to me, but there is someone who may be able to help you. Who? Han Dong immediately became alert and said impatiently. Brother, my dear brother, tell me quickly. Even if I tell you, you may not be embarrassed to speak. Han Xiao laid the groundwork, fearing that Han Dong, who has a strong self-esteem, would not be able to bear it. But looking at the entire Binhai, he is the only one who can get the ticket from Beimong. As long as this person can get the ticket, as long as he can send the idol off for the last time, I will be his dog. Han Dong said with blood boiling. Brother Xiao, don't waste time, tell me quickly. Zhang Ruoyu. Han Xiao said in a loud voice. Chapter 10 I am your father. Han Dong was stunned. This grandson, this buddy can get the ticket. Zhang Ruoyu is indeed from Beimong, but he is just a cook. Can a cook have such a big face? Brother Xiao, you know, I always treat you as my brother. Han Dong said in a deep voice. I also always treat you as my brother. Han Xiao pursed his lips and said. If you lie to me, I will break up with you. Han Dong's expression was determined. I didn't lie to you. Han Xiao said. If there is anyone in Binhai who can get the ticket, it is only him. Why can he? Han Dong was unwilling, didn't understand, and couldn't accept it. He has been in Beimong for 10 years, and he has a good relationship with the current Beimong young commander Long Fei. It is said that when Long Shui was seriously injured and left the front line, it was Zhang Ruoyu who was personally responsible for Long Shui's diet. Han Xiao made up a good story and praised Zhang Ruoyu, in order to make Han Dong not have such a big psychological burden when he asked Zhang Ruoyu for help. Xiao Dong, as the eldest brother, I have done my best. I understand. Han Dong gritted his teeth and nodded heavily. To send my idol off for the last time, I will not care about my face. But when he thought about how he had just scolded Zhang Ruoyu and then turned around to ask him to do something, Han Dong felt embarrassed and upset. He walked around the room for more than 10 times, and his head was dizzy before he pushed the door open and went downstairs. Zhang Ruoyu ate snacks and sipped tea, waiting for Han Jiangxue to wash up and send him back to the city. But in the blink of an eye, a figure appeared in front of him. It was none other than Han Dong, who had just scolded him. The boy held a big teapot in his hand, with a smile that was uglier than crying on his face. He said shamelessly, "Brother-in-law, try the dahongpao I just brewed. It was picked from the mother tree. My grandmother usually couldn't bear to drink it herself. I brewed half a catty of this pot for you." Zhang Ruoyu leaned back slightly, with a vigilant face. "You brewed half a catty of rat poison, right? What is this boy doing? He just scolded me and then he came to lick me. Isn't he stupid?" Thinking of this, he became more determined to divorce as soon as possible. He couldn't stay in the Han family. Their whole house was full of idiots. "How can I do that?" Han Dong poured tea into Zhang Ruoyu's empty cup. Because the mouth of the pot was too big, the expensive dahongpao spilled all over the table. "I was drunk just now. Brother-in-law, don't be angry with me. Things happen unexpectedly. It's either treachery or theft." Zhang Ruoyu didn't dare to drink this cup of tea. And looking at the concentration of the tea color, if he really drank a cup, he wouldn't be able to sleep tomorrow. "If you have something to say, just say it. Don't try to get close to me." Zhang Ruoyu glanced at Han Dong. "Okay, since my brother-in-law is so straightforward, I won't hide it." Han Dong put down the teapot and lowered his voice. "Brother-in-law, I heard that you are very familiar with Long Fei, the new young commander of Beimong." Zhang Ruoyu lit a cigarette leisurely and crossed his legs when he heard it. "I am not only familiar with Long Fei, but also like a brother to Zhang Xianbei, but what does this have to do with you?" Han Dong slapped his thigh and said excitedly, "Brother-in-law, you also know that General Zhang is the man I admire most in my life, and he is my only idol. 3 days later, General Zhang's memorial service will be held in our Binhai, but this is a memorial service that is basically not open to the public, and I can't get a ticket at all." After a pause, Han Dong's eyes turned red and said, "When General Zhang was alive, I didn't get a glimpse of his style. Now General Zhang died fighting for the country, I hope to send him off for the last time." Zhang Ruoyu glanced at Han Dong lightly, pursed his lips and said, "Do you want me to help you get a ticket? If it's not too much trouble for my brother-in-law." Han Dong tried fearfully. "No trouble, I can just call and ask Long Fei to come pick you up in person." Zhang Ruoyu said easily. "Really?" Han Dong was so excited that he couldn't help himself. "Fake." Zhang Ruoyu blurted out. Han Dong almost poured a pot of dahongpao on Zhang Ruoyu's head. Zhang Ruoyu glanced at Han Dong and said slowly, "Boy, the first time I came to your house, you blocked me outside the door and called me a waste. Now you need me for something, so you call me brother-in-law. I am your father? Do I need to spoil you like this?" Zhang Ruoyu put out his cigarette and said coldly, "Go away, don't disturb me drinking tea." Han Dong's face flushed with anger, and he felt very aggrieved. But Xiao Ji said it openly. "Looking at the whole Binhai, except for him, Zhang Ruoyu, no one has the ability to ask Beimong for a ticket. Leave? Unwilling. Stay? Too humiliating." Zhang Ruoyu sipped his tea without raising his head, but he didn't really hold a grudge. This kid scolded him mainly because he felt sorry for his sister, and his idol Zhang Xianbei died, so his mentality collapsed. He didn't help Han Dong, mainly because he didn't dare to help. Old Mrs. Han was like an old monster that was invulnerable to water and fire, and she couldn't be pried open at all. If he really helped Han Dong and got the fanatical support of his brother-in-law, it would be even more difficult to divorce in the future. But after a few cups of tea, Han Dong stood in front of him like a stubborn donkey. This kid clenched his fists, trembled with excitement, his eyes were red, and he felt like he was about to cry. "I don't understand." Zhang Ruoyu put down the teacup and said disdainfully, "Isn't Zhang Xianbei just a soldier? Do you really need to do that? Even if he really lets you go to the memorial service, can he still crawl out of the coffin and take a photo with you?" Han Dong's eyes were red and he said, "General Zhang is unparalleled in the country. He is a role model for our generation and a national hero." After that, Han Dong gritted his teeth and said, "General Zhang is also my sister's lifesaver. If I can't send General Zhang off for the last time, I will never forgive myself in this life." Zhang Ruoyu was stunned. This kid is quite sentimental and a real man. Forget it, satisfy the little fan's wish. Even if this kid likes me, he has no say in the Han family. It's better to show him a little favor to save me from trouble in the future. Boy, I think you are grateful and have a bit of blood. Zhang Ruoyu said lazily. Okay, help me think of a reason to help you. You are my brother-in-law. Han Dong said hastily. Brother-in-law? Your sister has never given me a good face since we got married. You are the same. You are rude to me as soon as we meet. Zhang Ruoyu narrowed his eyes and said. This reason is not good. It can't convince me. Han Dong's face was flushed. He racked his brains but couldn't figure out why Zhang Ruoyu would help him. Honestly, which bastard scolded him half an hour ago and now he is asking for help? Not to mention brother-in-law, even my own father is useless. Okay, I'll show you a way. Zhang Ruoyu said lightly. Let me be honest with you. I don't care about anyone in your Han family. I only respect your sister. If you can let her come to coax me and serve me well, let alone take you to the memorial service, I can let your entire Binhai military academy with more than 30,000 military academy students go to the scene to send Zhang Jiangxue off for the last time. Han Dong was so excited that tears welled up in his eyes. He gritted his teeth and said, a gentleman's word is his bond. Let's see your performance. Zhang Ruoyu smiled. Han Dong turned around and went upstairs, rushing towards Han Jiangxue's boudoir. Watching Han Dong go upstairs, Zhang Ruoyu felt that he was really wise. It didn't make much sense to disgust Han Dong. A fool who trembled when he saw Han Jiangxue would never amount to anything. If you want a divorce, the old lady has the final say. The second one is Han Jiangxue. From the current situation, the other Han family members are just there to make up the story and have no say. Now that the attempt to capture the old lady Han has failed, Han Jiangxue has become Zhang Ruoyu's first choice. As long as she always maintains hostility, resistance, and even disgust towards herself. Can the old lady Han not see it? Can she watch Zhang Ruoyu piss off her precious granddaughter to death? This marriage will be divorced sooner or later. Chapter 11 Brother-in-law loves you very much. Bang! Han Dong broke open the boudoir and rushed to his sister who was packing daily necessities, scaring Han Jiangxue. What are you crazy about again? Han Jiangxue had just taken a shower, her skin was rosy, and she smelled fragrant. She even sprayed perfume after taking a shower. Zhang Ruoyu's words, I can smell the stench, were a bit irritating to her. Sister, I'm sorry. Han Dong raised his hand and slapped himself, just like Han Shixiao apologized. I shouldn't scold your husband. He is your man, and my brother-in-law. I should respect him and treat him as a family member. Han Jiangxue was relieved to see her brother apologize, but the more she listened, the more uncomfortable she felt. Who told you to call him brother-in-law? Who told you to treat him as a family member? Han Dong, can't you stick to being yourself? Aren't you usually quite stubborn? Have you finished? Han Jiangxue said coldly. No. Han Dong said loudly. I just had a man's conversation with my brother-in-law. When I learned about his past and knew that he had been an unknown hero in Beimong for 10 years, I found that my brother-in-law's contribution to China was not inferior to Zhang Jiangxue, but one was in front of the stage and the other was behind the scenes. Han Jiangxue was so smart that she could not see Han Dong's tricks. After packing her luggage, Han Jiangxue said expressionlessly, what deal did he make with you? Without waiting for Han Dong to quibble, Han Jiangxue added, I will not let you get what you want even if you tell a lie. My brother-in-law promised to take me to Zhang Jiangxue's memorial service. Sister, you should know that it is difficult to get a pass. There are only a few in Binhai. Han Dong did not dare to lie. He knew his sister. When this woman was ruthless, even the King of Heaven would not give her face. Otherwise, my father would not have left Binhai in a hurry 10 years ago. The reason for leaving was that the father and daughter had a big fight for some unknown reason, and the sister said in anger that in the future, this family would have you or me. Then, my father never dared to return to the Han family mansion, and even rarely returned to Binhai. You sold me out just for a few passes. Han Jiangxue asked coldly. Of course not, you are my sister, how could I sell you out? Han Dong hurriedly explained. Brother-in-law just wanted to. I want to hear his original words. Han Jiangxue said coldly. Looking at his sister's sharp eyes, Han Dong was frightened and hesitantly said, "Brother-in-law said you treat him badly and asked you to coax him. As long as you serve him well, he can take more than 30,000 military academy students to see General Zhang off for the last time." Coax him? And serve him well? From the time they met until now, how many times has this bastard disgusted me? Has he said a human word? Brother-in-law also said. Han Dong looked at his sister's murderous eyes and hurriedly made amends. "He doesn't care about anyone in our Han family, but he respects you, sister." After exhaling, Han Dong said carefully, "It can be seen that brother-in-law still loves you very much." Han Jiangxue's mind went blank, and she almost laughed out of anger. Where is respect? Where is the pain? Han Dong took the initiative to pick up the heavy suitcase and whispered, "Sister, I will take you downstairs. Brother-in-law has been waiting for you for a long time." Han Jiangxue was as disappointed as death. Han Dong put the suitcase into the car, and then he was busy opening the door for the two of them, smiling, "Sister, brother-in-law, I forgot to tell you." Before the two of them could react, Han Dong said emotionally, "Happy wedding," and then ran away. In the room, Mrs. Han stood in front of the window, watching the newlyweds drive away, with a look of relief on her kind face. "Old Zhang, you don't know, your son has hundreds of tricks. I'm almost half buried, but I was almost broken by this kid." In the car, the atmosphere was very subtle. Han Jiangxue drove with a cold face, and her eyes seemed to want to kill. Zhang Ruoyu took out his mobile phone and played a small game to kill time. "When are you going to help Xiaodong get the ticket?" Suddenly, Han Jiangxue's voice like ice sounded. Although it was difficult to say, Xiaodong's admiration for Zhang Xianbei, how could a sister not know? When she was kidnapped, she heard from her grandmother that Xiaodong didn't sleep for 3 days and 3 nights, and waited for news by phone. As a sister, she couldn't bear that he couldn't even realize such a small wish. "Why are you in a hurry? The memorial service will be held in 3 days." Zhang Ruoyu said perfunctorily. "It's not a concert ticket, are you afraid that they will be sold out?" This is the attitude when asking for help. Or did Han Dong not convey his words clearly? How could Han Jiangxue not see that this bastard was perfunctory, and a surge of anger surged in her heart, and she said coldly, "Why don't you tell me first, how do you want me to serve you?" Zhang Ruoyu seemed not to notice how ugly Han Jiangxue's face was, and shrugged, "I have never bowed my head or bent my waist to anyone in my life. I don't understand things like serving people." "You don't understand, but I do." In the Han family, even the respected old lady Han was afraid of her, but now she was asked to coax this bastard and serve him comfortably. Han Jiangxue's face was as cold as frost, and she said word by word, "Why don't I do a striptease for you?" Chapter 12. Can you clean windows? Han Jiangxue, 27 years old, is a top student from a prestigious university. Since she joined the family business 5 years ago and became the CEO of Junxing Group, which is valued at 100 billion yuan, her life has been perfected in one step, and she has become the queen of Binhai. Because of her vicious tactics and her willingness to do anything to achieve her goals, Binhai's business community has a very bad reputation for her. But such an iceberg woman who doesn't even spoil her own father was completely broken by Zhang Ruoyu. When people get angry, they can't control their mouths. The female devil of Binhai City is going to dance a striptease for a man she just met. This is too one to watch. Although we are husband and wife, it's not illegal for you to dance for me, but I'm a slow-moving person. If you're too radical, I'll feel offended. Zhang Ruoyu thought for a while and asked, "Can you dance to clean windows?" Whoosh! Han Jiangxue stepped on the accelerator to the bottom, and her emotions were completely out of control. After achieving his goal, Zhang Ruoyu withdrew his magical powers and looked at the tall buildings outside the window. After 10 years, this city where he had lived for 18 years was so unfamiliar. In those years, Zhang Ruoyu lived a low-level life and went to the most ordinary school. No one told him that at the top of the pyramid in this city, a woman who had been shining since childhood and was spoiled like a princess was actually his fiancée. If he had known earlier, he would never allow himself to be a beggar every Wednesday when he was a student. Han Jiangxue gradually slowed down the car, and his palms were slightly sweaty due to racing. Glancing at Zhang Ruoyu, he found that he was not panicked at all, and even distracted. "What are your plans?" Han Jiangxue asked lightly. "Can you not be so impatient? Didn't I say it's still early?" Zhang Ruoyu pouted. "Also, use your brain a little. If I really help your brother get the ticket easily, he will be excited to recognize me as his brother-in-law. Wouldn't it be more troublesome to divorce in the future? I'm asking about your plans for work. Han Jiangxue frowned. But after listening to Zhang Ruoyu's explanation, it does make sense, but it's a bit hurtful. I didn't plan to. I decided to quit from the day I retired. Zhang Ruoyu shrugged. Han Jiangxue's eyes flashed with contempt. They were both from Beimong. Zhang Xiangbei served the country and the people and was famous all over the world. You, on the other hand, didn't make a name for yourself in the army, and you just quit after retiring. Grandma said that men should have their own careers. Han Jiangxue said with disgust. If you want to start a business, the Han family will provide you with startup funds. If Grandma hadn't told her before leaving, she wouldn't have bothered to care about Zhang Ruoyu's life or death. In fact, Grandma didn't even mention starting a business, but directly proposed that he join Zhenshen. Han Jiangxue really wanted to stay away from this bastard who couldn't spit out ivory, so she said that. Starting a business requires ambition, hard work, and the spirit of daring to fight and fight. Zhang Ruoyu shook his head and said, I can't start a business, and I can't let the old lady see my good qualities. Han Jiangxue took a deep breath and couldn't refute. Then I'll recommend a few companies for you, and you can go for the interview. Han Jiangxue said coldly. Are you deaf? Zhang Ruoyu was a little angry. I said I don't want to start a business, I don't want to work, I've dedicated my most precious 10 years to the motherland, can't I enjoy myself? Han Jiangxue gritted her teeth and tried her best to control her emotions. Come to my company, you can choose any position, you don't have to work. If you want to work, you can go to work, if you don't want to go to work, you can take a leave, no one will care about you. It's better not to let this bastard go out and harm others. Zhang Ruoyu snorted and reluctantly agreed, it's just you, if anyone else forces me to go to work, I will turn hostile. Han Jiangxue's face was bright and dark, and he almost got internal injuries. The luxury car drove at a snail's pace in the bustling business center. Countless big screens and billboards on the buildings were mourning General Zhang, showing their high respect for this national hero. Zhang Xiangbei was born in Binhai, and this coastal financial center has also made this city a hero city, and the citizens of the city are proud of it. Zhang Ruoyu looked around, and the more he looked, the worse his mood became. Han Jiangxue saw the sad news that her lifesaver had died in battle, and her mood was extremely heavy. If it's convenient, help me get a ticket too. Han Jiangxue said in a low voice. This time, she didn't wait for Zhang Ruoyu to slander her, and said directly, General Zhang saved me. Oh. Zhang Ruoyu pressed the car window, lit a cigarette, and said lazily. He saved a lot of people, do you think he can remember you? It doesn't matter. Han Jiangxue shook her head lightly, as if to resolve the depression in her heart, and changed the subject. Do you want to make our relationship public? Zhang Ruoyu raised his eyebrows and asked, why do you ask? If it's public, it will be easier for you to be a jerk, and no one will dare to control you. Han Jiangxue said bluntly. I don't like lying, and I don't want to pretend when I see you in the company. You are noble, you are amazing. Zhang Ruoyu glared at Han Jiangxue. You are so young and have a lot of money. Even if you are divorced and remarried, there are still many dogs chasing after you. What about me? Once it's public, will anyone want me, a son-in-law of a wealthy family who has been kicked out? Do you want me to live alone for the rest of my life? Then don't make it public. Han Jiangxue pretended to be relaxed. Although it's easy to say, she will be burdened if she really makes it public. Are you relieved? Zhang Ruoyu seemed to see through Han Jiangxue's heart and playfully said. Han Jiangxue snorted and said calmly, tell me what kind of job you want to do, I will help you arrange it, and you can start work today. Just arrange a vice president or something, preferably one with great power and the ability to embezzle public funds. Zhang Ruoyu said lightly. Han Jiangxue frowned and said, what do you want to do? Of course, to ruin the family. Zhang Ruoyu said as a matter of course. The longer I work, the more the company loses. As time goes by, how can the old lady not be anxious? What a bullshit promise to keep, those who dare to shout slogans like this, just haven't cut the meat yet. Chapter 13 Sink him into the sea. Han Jiangxue was dumbfounded. What's wrong with this bastard's brain? He really lacks virtue. He thought about all the vacant positions in the group. Because of several accidents recently, there is a great demand for security guards. But when he thought of letting Zhang Ruoyu be a security guard, Han Jiangxue immediately rejected this stupid idea. Let him stand guard and be responsible for security work. Maybe he was torn to pieces by the gangsters in the company, but he was still watching the short videos. Glancing at Zhang Ruoyu, Han Jiangxue suddenly came up with an idea. The catering department of the group is short of a chef, and you are a professional match. Han Jiangxue narrowed her eyes and said, "Go there today. Want to rot? Then let you rot in the kitchen." But Zhang Ruoyu did not resist, but said slowly, "Okay, I will reluctantly help you guide the catering department. By the way, open your back door for me." "What back door?" Han Jiangxue frowned. "Just now the old lady told me that you have been having accidents recently, and she is worried that someone is behind the scenes. Open the back door a little wider so that I can help you check it out." Zhang Ruoyu shrugged. "You, a cook, can check this." Han Jiangxue looked disdainful, thinking that the old lady was meddling in other people's business. "What else?" Zhang Ruoyu sneered. "Do you think I've been in Beimong for nothing for 10 years? Apart from other things, even Zhang Xiangbei often came to me for advice when he was marching and fighting, and he often praised me as Beimong's wise man." Han Jiangxue was too lazy to talk nonsense with this guy who was full of nonsense. After reluctantly agreeing to let him go through the back door, he drove the car straight to the underground parking lot. But before the car stopped, more than a dozen imposing luxury cars drove into Junshin parking lot. With the sound of slamming doors, dozens of burly and tall bodyguards in suits got out of the luxury cars, surrounded by a young man with extraordinary temperament, and walked towards the two of them. "Is that sissy looking for you?" Zhang Ruoyu asked with narrowed eyes. Han Jiangxue frowned and ignored him. Just as she was about to open the door and get out of the car, Zhang Ruoyu said firmly, "You have had several accidents. I suspect he is the mastermind behind it." Han Jiangxue asked curiously. "Why?" "In terms of temperament and clothing, he is barely qualified to be my rival in love." Zhang Ruoyu said in a deep voice. "I have to discredit him." Han Jiangxue's legs went weak and she almost fell out of the car. "Boss Han, I was just about to go upstairs to find you. I didn't expect it to be such a coincidence." The young man walked over gracefully. The follower behind him was also very tactful and stopped not far away. "What's the matter?" Han Jiangxue was indifferent and didn't even look at him. Shen Yunqiao smiled gentlemanly and didn't care about Han Jiangxue's indifference. In Binhai, there are not many men who are qualified to show up in front of her, and even fewer who can make her answer. If the Shen family and the Han family were not old friends and the two companies had frequent exchanges, Shen Yunqiao would not have had the opportunity to deal with this vicious queen. But just when Shen Yunqiao was about to give this Binhai's most beautiful woman a surprise, accompanied by a muffled click, a man walked down from the co-pilot seat. A man who is not as good as Shen Yunqiao in terms of talent, appearance, temperament and clothing. This guy actually sat in the co-pilot seat that Shen Yunqiao had been thinking about day and night. Instantly, a violent look flashed in Shen Yunqiao's eyes, but he quickly hid it. "Boss Han, this is," Shen Yunqiao asked politely. "Zhang Ruoyu, the current senior chef of the catering department of Junshin Group." Zhang Ruoyu walked forward in a dignified manner. With these words, Han Jiangxue was easily relieved. It also made the hostile Shen Yunqiao relax. Although he was still curious about how a chef was qualified to get on Han Jiangxue's car, the higher education he received since childhood prompted him to extend a hand of friendship. Just as he was about to force a smile on his face and prepare to greet, Zhang Ruoyu, who walked up to him, spoke again. "She is also Boss Han's first love," Zhang Ruoyu said without any taboo. As soon as these words came out, the temperature dropped sharply. Han Jiangxue, who was caught off guard, had a cold face. "Have you been in love? Are you in love? You can just say it's your first marriage, why play dirty?" After listening to Zhang Ruoyu's self-introduction, Shen Yunqiao almost couldn't hold it. "How did you say first love? Aren't you a cold-blooded, vicious woman? Aren't you said to hate men? You only lied to me in your relationship." Shen Yunqiao's face was bright and dark, and he was disappointed to see that Han Jiangxue, who was always stern and impartial, did not explain. But soon, Shen Yunqiao captured the key information. First love. That should have happened a long time ago. At least since Han Jiangxue took charge of Junshin Group, there has never been a man around her. So you got into Junsheng through this relationship. Shen Yunchao restored his gentlemanly smile and reminded him kindly. Then you have to work hard. Our President Han is famous for his clear rewards and punishments, and he doesn't tolerate anyone's faults. It's my fault that President Han has become like this. Zhang Ruoyu sighed. Shen Yunchao was confused, wondering why he was blamed, but Han Jiangxue wanted to run, but she was still slow after all. Boss Han has given me all her tenderness and affection over the years. Maybe she is tired and has slowly learned to pretend. Zhang Ruoyu looked at Han Jiangxue, who looked as disgusting as if she had eaten a fly. I didn't expect that kiss goodbye on that rainy night would hurt her so deeply. Han Jiangxue ran away as if she had lost her soul. Looking at her lonely back, she really looked like a resentful woman who was abandoned after being seduced. When Shen Yunchao saw Han Jiangxue leaving, he stopped pretending and glared at Zhang Ruoyu coldly. You are so fucking disgusting. Zhang Ruoyu grinned, and a wickedness suddenly burst out of his body. He hugged Shen Yunchao's shoulders and whispered, Boy, I'll tell you straight. I came to Junsheng to rekindle with Han Jiangxue and divide her property. If you dare to ruin my good deeds, I will kill you. After that, he followed Han Jiangxue into the elevator. Shen Yunchao, who was left aside, was stunned for a long time before he came back to his senses. Damn, how come this guy stole my lines? Isn't this a hooligan? Shen Yunchao raised his hand with a gloomy face, and 2 bodyguards came over. Check his background. If he doesn't have any background, sink him into the sea. Shen Yunchao said coldly. What if he has a background? A steady bodyguard asked. His also fucking sunk. Shen Yunchao slapped him backhanded and cursed. My murderous aura is written all over my face, are you fucking blind? Shen Yunchao took another elevator upstairs in a rage. Today, he had 2 important things to discuss with Han Jiangxue. One was that the demolition area of Xingfuli suddenly stopped construction. As a partner, the loss was too great, and there had to be an explanation. The other thing was that he had the hottest hard currency in Binhai recently, 2 memorial service passes in his pocket. Now a pass has been hyped up to tens of millions on the market, and there is no market for it. Shen Yunchao had heard that Han Jiangxue was kidnapped and it was the legendary war god Zhang Ruoyu who saved her. If he gave her a ticket to see her savior for the last time, how could she not be moved? Secondly, Shen Yunchao had made many appointments with Han Jiangxue over the years, but was always rejected. This time, with the help of Zhang Xiangbei's ashes, he might be able to take advantage of the opportunity at the memorial service and successfully hold the goddess' hand. Chapter 14 You are the knife. In the CEO's special elevator, Han Jiangxue stood in the corner, looking at Zhang Ruoyu with a bit of evasive eyes. This thing is too dirty, she is afraid. Just now, that sissy said that he pursued you just to share your property and achieve class transition. He also warned me that if I dared to ruin his good deeds, I would be sunk into the sea. Zhang Ruoyu said suddenly. Oh. Han Jiangxue didn't take it to heart. She was not stupid. How could she not see Shen Yunchao's dirty thoughts? Aren't you going to express your attitude? Zhang Ruoyu raised his eyebrows. Han Jiangxue said lightly, he will come to the office to find me later, you come too. What am I here for? Watch you flirt. Or let him humiliate me. Zhang Ruoyu said in a deep voice. Han Jiangxue, you are really good at using a knife to kill someone. Faced with Zhang Ruoyu's slander, Han Jiangxue remained calm, her red lips slightly parted as she said, you are too modest, you are the knife. What do you mean? Use me? Want to use me as cannon fodder? Zhang Ruoyu said indignantly. Han Jiangxue, you look like a decent person, but you are actually a sly guy. Han Jiangxue's face froze, and she didn't respond. He saw through Zhang Ruoyu. This bastard's broken mouth is like water in a sponge. If you dare to touch him, he will spray you to death. The reason why she asked Zhang Ruoyu to come was mainly because of her family relationship and her status as a partner. She couldn't avoid Shen Yunchao all the time. You can see that she hates his hypocritical appearance. So Han Jiangxue thought of this trick, fighting poison with poison. You, Shen Yunchao, are good at speaking, right? Today, I will let you see what a real foul mouth is. You can ask me to help you, but you have to promise me one thing. Seeing that she didn't respond, Zhang Ruoyu found a way out. I'm going to video chat with my aunt tonight. I'm a little nervous. You can accompany me. Okay. Han Jiangxue nodded calmly. Zhang Ruoyu was about to tell her how to talk to her aunt when the elevator door opened. Because it was a direct elevator and the president's office area, there were not many people on the road. Occasionally, a few subordinates passed by, and they all nodded and bowed to Han Jiangxue, with awe and gossip in their eyes. But a closer look at the ordinary Zhang Ruoyu showed contempt and a little disappointment. When I was drinking with a few old scouts from Beimong before, they summarized an experience with me. Zhang Ruoyu said calmly. If a person doesn't do things seriously and keeps staring at you, he must be an undercover. Go check those people who stared at me just now. At least 2 of them participated in the conspiracy you encountered before. Zhang Ruoyu said firmly. Han Jiangxue, who was used to it, didn't bother to pay attention to him and pushed the door to walk into the office. The president's office was decorated in a grand style with an excellent view. Standing in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window and looking down, all living beings were like ants. No wonder you always look high and mighty and look down on others. Zhang Ruoyu stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the people downstairs and sighed. It's not your fault. Even a veteran of Beimong like me, who has a heart as solid as a rock, feels a little inflated for no reason when standing here. Han Jiangxue didn't say anything, but opened his notebook to check some internal documents. Zhang Ruoyu had nothing to do, so he looked at the decoration style of the office. 2 words to describe it: sharp and cold. It's obviously spacious and grand, but it makes people not want to stay any longer, and it's a bit scary. Dong dong. Someone knocked on the door, and Han Jiangxue said without raising his head, "Come in." The domineering temperament was fully revealed. The person who came in was none other than Shen Yunqiao, who had just been threatened by Zhang Ruoyu. As soon as he entered the room, he saw Zhang Ruoyu strolling around. A cold look flashed in his eyes, but he walked past Zhang Ruoyu and sat opposite Han Jiangxue. "Boss Han, I came to Junxing this time mainly to ask you for advice on work," Shen Yunqiao said modestly. "What is it?" Han Jiangxue still didn't look up at him, and there was no emotion on her cold face. This, Shen Yunqiao hesitated, and glanced at Zhang Ruoyu pretentiously, with an obvious intention to drive him away. "He is also a member of the company, there is nothing to hide," Han Jiangxue said lightly. "Speak frankly." Shen Yunqiao was full of resentment. "Han Jiangxue, you really don't treat this grandson as an outsider. What, are you really going to renew your relationship? It's like this. The demolition work in Xingfuli was suddenly stopped last night. I found out that it was Juanxing's intention." Shen Yunqiao hesitated and said tactfully, "As the old saying goes, a machine is worth a lot of gold. But this call for a stop has caused us to lose over $1,000,000 a day. I just want to consult Mr. Han to find out why it was suddenly stopped." "No reason, I just think it's too noisy," Han Jiangxue said coldly. "Too noisy? You have a good hearing. The demolition area is 1,000,000 miles away from your Han family, how come it's noisy to you?" Shen Yunqiao did not accept this reason. He paused for a moment and began to speak in a strong tone. "Boss Han, although this demolition project is led by Junxing, there are 5 or 6 cooperative companies in various aspects, and even relevant units have come forward. We must give them an explanation and cannot just stop it." Before coming, Shen Yunqiao planned to support Han Jiangxue and let Han Jiangxue know how good he was to her, and then take out the pass to win her heart in one fell swoop. But the appearance of Zhang Ruoyu made him unbalanced. He began to make use of the topic. Seeing that Shen Yunqiao was a little bit exaggerated, Han Jiangxue raised her eyes slightly and said, "The entire relocation was negotiated by Junxing and the authorities, and the land was also funded by Junxing. Even the demolition work was also responsible for Junxing. What's wrong with Junxing calling for a stop? Is the loss of money on your head? Or let those scumbags who got in through connections bear it," Han Jiangxue said in a strong attitude. Shen Yunqiao was stunned. He didn't expect this woman to turn against him directly. He was a little embarrassed, but in terms of strength, the Shen family was definitely not as good as the Han family. Even in this project, he was just assisting from the side, not the main force. The reason why he became a partner was nothing more than wanting to get in touch with Han Jiangxue and build a relationship. His family even promised him that as long as he could take down Han Jiangxue, he would be the next generation of the Shen family leader. Take a deep breath and calm down the waves in his heart. Shen Yunqiao smiled slightly. Just as he was about to take out the pass to appease Han Jiangxue, Zhang Ruoyu, who was strolling beside him, suddenly said, "Boss Han, just say whatever you want to say. Why are you so angry? As he said, Zhang Ruoyu walked up to him, looking like he couldn't hide something. The thing is, last night Boss Han insisted on staying at my house, and my house happened to be in the demolition area. Boss Han had a light sleep and was busy all night, so he called them to stop the work. In principle, this is my fault, Zhang Ruoyu said responsibly. Chapter 15 Xue Bao, he is mean to me. Shen Yunqiao almost had a brain congestion. What do you mean? I've been chasing you for 5 years, and you're not even willing to have dinner alone. When your old lover comes, you go to his house to spend the night. And you're showing off in front of your old lover and spending money like water? Can't you go to a hotel to get a room because it's too noisy? Why do you have to find excitement at the construction site? Look at Han Jiangxue's obvious restlessness, her tired face, and her red eyes. The construction site has been stopped, there's no noise, and you can't get your energy back after a night of sleep. What kind of fun did you two have last night? Han Jiangxue's scalp was numb. What Zhang Ruoyu said was basically true, but the meaning conveyed was completely different. This bastard once again gave himself up to disgust others. But it doesn't matter. No matter how cold and mean he is, the young master of the Shen family is always like a dog's skin plaster, unlike Zhang Ruoyu, who broke his defense with just a few words. Han Jiangxue sometimes wondered, this guy has been in the army for 10 years, and he just practiced talking. After a brief ideological struggle, Shen Yunqiao grinned and showed a very forced smile, and even his voice trembled a little. Boss Han, this matter is my fault. I didn't investigate it clearly. Han Jiangxue had a blank expression and said nothing. But Zhang Ruoyu secretly gave him a thumbs up. This grandson is ruthless and has the style of a general. Who dares to say that he is not in love with Han Jiangxue? Zhang Ruoyu was the first to object. After sorting out his thoughts, Shen Yunqiao pursed his lips and said, Boss Han, I have heard about your past with General Zhang Xiangbei. In order to prevent you from having any regrets, I took great pains to get you a ticket for the memorial service. As he spoke, he carefully placed the ticket with the seal of the Northern Mang Army on the desk as if he were presenting a national treasure. Han Jiangxue saw this and glanced at Zhang Ruoyu standing beside him. From yesterday afternoon when she learned of Zhang Xiangbei's death to now, it has only been one night, and the value of this ticket has fermented to an unpredictable level. 3 days later, even if this ticket is worth 100 million, Han Jiangxue would not be surprised, and it may even be out of stock. But even if this ticket is scarce, she will not want it, otherwise she will be disgusted by Zhang Ruoyu in vain. This guy promised to ask the Northern Mang Army to get the ticket. Just as she was about to refuse, Zhang Ruoyu spoke again at an inappropriate time. He said with a firm face, Boss Han, this pass is fake. If you take it, you will definitely be beaten out by the Northern Mang Army. After these words, Han Jiangxue's expression was subtle, but Shen Yunqiao was completely furious. He raised his head suddenly like a wounded beast, staring at Zhang Ruoyu who hated him to the core. Boy, if you keep talking nonsense, I will tear your mouth apart. In an instant, the tortured Han Jiangxue actually empathized. Tear it apart. Hurry up. Tearing my mouth apart won't change the truth. Zhang Ruoyu said seriously. Your ticket is fake. Shen Yunqiao almost cursed, but the occasion was not right, and he didn't want to get angry in front of Han Jiangxue, so he had to take a deep breath, calm down and said, Boss Han, this pass was taken by my grandfather from the old subordinates in Binhai military region. Believe me, this ticket can't be fake. Han Jiangxue believed that the ticket was real. Although the old man of the Shen family retired, his prestige in Binhai military region was still there, and it shouldn't be difficult to get 2 tickets. The ones who really drove the pass to a sky-high price were the businessmen who didn't have enough connections but had money and wanted to go to the memorial service to gild themselves. Boss Han, don't believe him. Zhang Ruoyu said. Is it true that his grandfather took it? Is it possible that the old subordinates fooled his grandfather? Even if the old subordinates didn't fool him, it is possible that Beimong made a mistake. Did they give the Beimong special paper money that was originally intended to be burned at Zhang Xiangbei's grave to these old subordinates? Shen Yunqiao's face turned green. I've seen wicked people, but I've never seen such wicked people. Han Jiangxue almost couldn't help laughing. She found that as long as Zhang Ruoyu didn't disgust herself, it was a kind of perverted enjoyment to see him disgust others. Can you shut your stinky mouth? Shen Yunqiao stood up suddenly, shaking with anger. Xue Bao, he was mean to me. Zhang Ruoyu sat next to Han Jiangxue. Yu Xinyunchao's eyes were red, and he wanted to tear this grandson's hand apart. Enough. Han Jiangxue had to work hard to keep her mouth from twitching, and even the words "Shua Bao" covered with a layer of oil didn't sound so disgusting. Take the ticket back, I already have it. Han Jiangxue maintained her domineering temperament with great difficulty and said indifferently. I have a meeting later, please go back. Xinyunchao almost broke his back teeth, glared at Zhang Ruoyu fiercely, and left in a rage. This bastard, I will chop him into pieces and feed him to the dogs sooner or later. As soon as Xinyunchao left, Zhang Ruoyu sat down and glanced at Han Jiangxue and said, laugh if you want, just don't show your teeth. With one sentence, Han Jiangxue was completely defeated. As soon as Xinyunchao left, this bastard stared at her. Han Jiangxue restrained her emotions and the few expressions on her face, pursed her lips and said, I have already said it just now, you have to help me get the pass. Zhang Ruoyu perfunctorily said, why are you in a hurry? It's too early. Han Jiangxue didn't urge him anymore, but asked curiously, is his pass really fake? Mr. Shen is still very prestigious in the Binhai military region. She originally believed it, but after Zhang Ruoyu's convincing words, she was a little skeptical. Zhang Ruoyu suddenly stood up after hearing this, and a domineering aura emanated from his body. I said he was fake, even if the King of Heaven came, he couldn't be real. If you don't believe me, just wait and see. After saying this, he slammed the door and left. Chapter 16, The Feng Shui is Ruined. After leaving the president's office, Zhang Ruoyu found a dark corner to make a phone call. As soon as the call was connected, a voice full of surprise and awe came from the other end. Brother, what do you want to talk to me about? It was the voice of Long Fei, the young commander of Beimong. Let me tell you something. Zhang Ruoyu said calmly. Brother, you say. Long Fei straightened his back, as if receiving instructions from his superior. I just took a look at the passes you issued. Zhang Ruoyu said casually. What's wrong? Long Fei asked curiously. It's too ugly. Zhang Ruoyu said in a deep voice. Do it again. Long Fei was dumbfounded. Isn't it just a memorial service ticket? What's wrong with being ugly? How can such a beautiful design be used as a wedding invitation? After a moment of silence, Long Fei said with some embarrassment, Brother, the passes have been issued. Redoing them will make us in Beimong look like we are unorganized and undisciplined. Oh, you've just become the young commander and you're already being so rude to me. Zhang Ruoyu narrowed his eyes and said, Damn shorty, have you forgotten how you tried to curry favor with me in the first place? Height is Long Fei's only weak spot. He doesn't even have high requirements. As long as he can reach over 1.7 meters, he thinks his temperament can be improved by 2 levels. If it were someone else who touched his reverse scale, he would be punished even though they were far away. But Zhang Ruoyu, forget it, who can blame him for being 1.80 meters tall even without shoes? Brother, stop scolding me. I'll redo it right away. How about you give me some suggestions on the design? Don't redo it if you're still not satisfied. Zhang Ruoyu gave Long Fei this miserable life, so how could he dare to be so rude to him? Seeing that Long Fei had a good attitude in admitting his mistake, Zhang Ruoyu also relaxed his tone. The color is more atmospheric, bright yellow is good. The font is best designed in wild cursive to show your uninhibited personality. Yes, that makes sense. Brother, you are really a genius at designing. Long Fei said flatteringly. Any other requests? Yes, the redone pass can be given to anyone, but don't give it to someone named Shen. Zhang Ruoyu pouted. Understood. Long Fei didn't ask much. He heard that there was a big shot named Shen in the Binhai district who had received 2 tickets before. Now that he has spoken, he won't give it to him even if he is burned at the grave. I'd like to mention this more. It's not that I have any grudge against the person named Shen, but I went to the master a few days ago to settle the matter. The master said that I have good luck, but it conflicts with the character named Shen. Zhang Ruoyu explained. I don't want someone named Shen to go to the cemetery and ruin the feng shui. Brother is right. Long Fei twitched the corner of his mouth. There's one more thing. Zhang Ruoyu took a deep breath. You say? Long Fei asked carefully. Please prepare more of the reissued passes this time. Zhang Ruoyu said. How much do you want? Long Fei asked generously. How can I not have a few friends? To gain some face in front of friends and satisfy your vanity, how can a younger brother not understand and support it? About 30,000 or 40,000. Zhang Ruoyu said casually. Long Feiren was stunned. Brother, you have been in the army for 10 years, do you still have so many friends outside? Long Fei has heard that this pass is now hard currency in Binhai. One ticket is worth tens of millions and there is still a shortage of people. Brother, you are asking for 30,000 or 40,000 tickets. Are you trying to monetize the traffic? Are you trying to make a fortune at the funeral? Brother, these passes are not toilet paper. We have to ensure quality and quantity, right? Time is running out. If we make 30,000 or 40,000 passes at once, I'm afraid the factory will be under too much pressure. Long Fei looked embarrassed. Can't you just print it as toilet paper? This pass is just a token of your appreciation. Do you really want to make it according to the specifications of the collector's edition? Zhang Ruoyu scolded him. Brother, you just complained that the pass was too ugly, so I remade it. But. No buts. Zhang Ruoyu raised his voice. It's my own memorial service, can't I make some decisions? I invited a few friends to come over and make it lively, what's wrong with that? Does it bother you? Long Fei felt that what his elder brother said made sense and it was difficult for him to refute it. Even if the big brother wants to make a fortune by using the appeal of the legendary god of war, can a younger brother stop him from making money? That's it for now. I'll come back to you if I think of anything later. Zhang Ruoyu was about to hang up the phone. Brother. Long Fei's voice sounded over the phone, forbearing and unwilling. Are you really leaving like this? Not coming back. A real man can pierce a wall with his spit. He said he would retire, how could it be true? Zhang Ruoyu said, and then changed the subject. Speaking of which, living a different life is also a good choice. Long Fei raised his eyebrows. Indeed, I used to eat in a big pot and sleep on a hard bed. If I sell 30,000 or 40,000 passes, wouldn't I become rich overnight and enjoy the delicacies of the land and the sea every day? This day is not just good, it's simply beautiful. Brother, please think about it again. Long Fei still did not give up. I have registered the names of Zhang Xiangdong, Zhang Xiangxi and Zhang Xiangnan. As long as you are willing to come back, you will be able to return to the top in a year at most. By then? As Long Fei spoke, he suddenly had an evil thought. By then, I can use my old tricks again and make a lot of money by leveraging my influence. Then I will become the richest man, right? Long Fei suddenly felt that he had some business acumen. Doing business shouldn't be difficult. Why do people go bankrupt every day? Chapter 17 I miss you. By then, will you, Long Fei, continue to be my younger brother in Beimong and live under my shadow? Zhang Ruoyu curled his lips and said, You dwarf, can you be more promising? Long Fei rolled his eyes and muttered, Okay, brother. I have to help the engineers complete the blueprints for your statue. Alas, the Binhai officials are so polite that they have to erect a 1:8 life-size statue next to your grave. It's just formalism. Zhang Ruoyu had a complicated expression, and suddenly he had a subtle emotion. He felt that he was not living up to other people's good intentions. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Ruoyu lit a cigarette and found a chair to sit down. When he decided to retire, the commander exploded on the spot, and Long Fei and his group of Beimong veterans who had followed him for many years cried every day. The military organized such a grand funeral, which was even broadcast on TV, which was the perfect ending to Zhang Ruoyu's entire military career and an extreme protection for him. If he retired alive, the dark forces, underworld tycoons, and even foreign warlords that he had destroyed with his own hands would never let him live a single day in peace. With his death, Zhang Xiangbei's legendary life would end, and he could live like an ordinary person. The reason why he chose to retire at the peak of his life was not because he was tired of fighting and killing, nor was it because he was ostracized because of his fame. He retired because of one person and one sentence. That person was his aunt, Lin Qingxi. A woman that Zhang Ruoyu never dares to say no to, a woman who has been taking care of and protecting him since his parents passed away when he was 8 years old. When he was young, he was rebellious and domineering because he had no parents. Everyone called him a wild child. Apart from his aunt, there was no one to talk to him. Zhang Ruoyu still can't forget the time when he was 15 years old and had a conflict with a group of street thugs. He fought 5 of them alone and lost, but he knocked down 3 of them, and the other two were so scared that they dared not fight again. He was covered in blood and his face was hideous, like a wild wolf that is not accepted by the world. When his aunt arrived, Zhang Ruoyu, who had been stabbed in the thigh, could no longer stand up straight. There were people watching nearby, pointing and talking at him, but no one called the police. His aunt, who secretly ran out of the university dormitory, took him to the hospital alone. That night was very windy and bitterly cold. As always, my aunt didn't blame him, not a single word. That night, my aunt took care of him in the hospital and stayed with him all night. After daybreak, the aunt left all the living expenses by his bed, told him to rest and recover, and that she would come to see him after school. That was the first time Zhang Ruoyu felt ashamed and guilty. He asked his aunt in a trembling voice, "I am a bad person, why do you care about me? Why are you so nice to me?" But my aunt answered him calmly, "If I don't treat you well, who will treat you well?" Zhang Ruoyu was silent. When he was 17 years old, Zhang Ruoyu, who was about to take the college entrance examination, chose a university with the company of his aunt. That night was the winter solstice, and it snowed heavily in Binhai. My aunt made a pot of dumplings to accompany him during the festival. The light in the living room was very warm, and my aunt's eyes were also very soft. Zhang Ruoyu had good grades. As long as he performed normally, he should be able to go to a prestigious university in the north. His aunt gave him a lot of suggestions, but Zhang Ruoyu didn't listen to them. He also found the dumplings tasteless. Because while eating dumplings, Zhang Ruoyu asked curiously, "Aunt, where do you plan to work after you graduate from college?" "Wherever you go to college, I'll work there," my aunt said casually. But because of this sentence, Zhang Ruoyu gave up the college entrance examination and decided to join the army. He wants to leave her. Strictly speaking, he didn't want to be a burden to his aunt anymore. When I was young and ignorant, I always thought that my aunt was studying in an ordinary first-class university in Binhai just because her grades were not good enough. Later he found out that his aunt, who was the top scholar in Binhai that year, stayed in Binhai to attend university in order to take care of him, and she went to that ordinary university because it was close to home. In order to be closer to home and to take care of him, my aunt easily made the decision to change the trajectory of her life. Now, even where she goes to work and what kind of job she chooses depends on which school Zhang Ruoyu goes to. Zhang Ruoyu refused to accept it. He didn't want to be a burden to his aunt for the rest of his life. "Aunt, I'm not going to take the college entrance exam. I'm going to join the army." Under the warm light, Zhang Ruoyu didn't dare to look into his aunt's eyes. He was very afraid that his aunt would question and blame him. But my aunt, as always, didn't say a word to him. After a few seconds of silence, she put away the college materials piled on the table and said, "Being a soldier is tiring. Take care of yourself." On the day Zhang Ruoyu joined the army, his aunt came to see him off. It was also on that day that my aunt left Binhai and returned to Yangjing alone, dragging a suitcase. It was a sunny and cloudless day. But they completely withdrew from each other's world, as if they had never appeared. In the past 10 years, they would only make a phone call to wish each other a happy birthday on each other's birthday. Maybe they would just have a conversation of a few words, or maybe just a happy birthday or a thank you. A month ago, on Zhang Ruoyu's birthday, at a celebration party held for him by Beimong, he received a call from his aunt. This time, my aunt didn't say happy birthday. What she said was, "I miss you, come back." It was on this day that the northern Man god of war Zhang Xiangbei retired, and a legendary figure went into seclusion. From the age of 8 to 28, my aunt never made any request to Zhang Ruoyu. Even when he was the most rebellious and crazy, my aunt never criticized him. But as long as my aunt mentioned it, no matter what is proposed, he will not refuse. My aunt said she missed him and asked him to come back. He then shed all his halo and glory and stepped down from the altar. My aunt said that he was old and it was time for him to get married and start a family, so he came to Binhai to fulfill the marriage contract. From childhood to adulthood, his aunt gave him a fatherly sense of security and a motherly tenderness. They are also his only relatives in this world. Zhang Ruoyu took what she said as his guiding principle. Chapter 18, Passcode. Outside the Junxing building, Zhang Ruoyu held a cigarette in his mouth and stared into the distance with squinted eyes. After leaving the president's office, he did not go to work directly. Instead, he called Long Fei and asked him to bring 200 passes first. Long Fei didn't ask any more questions. He quickly made 200 copies according to Zhang Ruoyu's request. But he was afraid of traffic jams on the road, so he rode his electric scooter over there. In the busy business district, Long Fei was seen wearing a helmet, carrying a briefcase across his body, and moving among the crowd with sweat all over his face. With his dark skin, short stature, and the cross-body bag he carries, he exudes the temperament of a worker from the end of the last century. Swish! The electric scooter slid and stopped in front of Zhang Ruoyu. You made me wait half an hour longer. Zhang Ruoyu glanced at Long Fei coldly. If this delayed the opportunity on the battlefield, I would have to kill you. Long Fei quickly jumped out of the car, handed the briefcase to the anxious Zhang Ruoyu, and explained, Brother, I made a mistake in judgment, but I didn't expect that riding an electric scooter would cause such a damn traffic jam. I should have flown a helicopter earlier. Okay. Zhang Ruoyu took the heavy black leather bag and weighed it in his hand. Is the amount correct? No, I counted them one by one, 208, not one less. Long Fei said with a strange expression. This pass is bright yellow in color, with cursive writing, and looks a bit like the talisman paper burned at graves. Isn't that just right for the occasion? Zhang Ruoyu stopped opening his briefcase and checking the numbers. Brother, you are so urgent to get these 200 passes. Is it because your relatives or friends are asking you for help? Long Fei asked. No. Zhang Ruoyu shook his head and put out his cigarette. I will officially enter the business world soon, and I think since I'm new here, I have to give my colleagues some gifts. But after thinking about it, I don't have any expensive gifts to show off, so I'll just let them watch a free fireworks show. By the way, are there any fireworks displays planned for the memorial service? The kind that explodes at a cost of 1,000 per shot. No, why set off fireworks in such a depressing and sad atmosphere? Long Fei was a little embarrassed. Say hello to Binhai and tell him that General Zhang loved watching fireworks when he was alive. Zhang Ruoyu said lightly. I have thought of the reasons for you. General Zhang came through the flames of war. Watching fireworks is to remind himself that the reason this country is peaceful is because there are always people falling in the hail of bullets in places that people cannot see. Look to the east in the world of light and fire. They are lone heroes, those who go against the tide. General Zhang will die with regrets if he cannot see the fireworks. Zhang Ruoyu said this, swiped his card and walked into Junxing building. Long Fei stood there in a daze. Only after Zhang Ruoyu walked away did he let out a breath, raised his hand with a serious expression, and saluted. Maybe the boss really needs a rest. As a leading enterprise in Binhai, Junxing Group covers a wide range of fields, has more than 30,000 employees, and even the catering department has nearly 200 people. It is definitely a business unicorn. In an enterprise like this with extremely complicated personnel relations, how much gossip would it cause if Zhang Ruoyu was parachuted in as a leader? He has to show some sincerity. Knock knock. Zhang Ruoyu pushed open the door of the catering department's lounge and saw a crowd of employees all busy eating. It's only 10:30 in the morning. In other industries, it's too early to eat, but in the catering industry, it's punctual. Zhang Ruoyu came in with his bag, but no one paid any attention to him. This was completely different from the welcome he had expected. Zhang Ruoyu, who was ignored, was a little angry and coughed violently. Only then did the employees notice him, and he looked exactly like the photo in the chef's file that the HR department had just brought over. The employees stood up to welcome the new leader. Zhang Ruoyu raised his hand slightly, and put on a face like someone who has worked in a leadership team for many years. Everyone, put down your jobs. The employees were polite enough to put down their bowls and chopsticks and remain silent while listening to the new leader's speech. My name is Zhang Ruoyu, the chef hired by President Han himself. Although I am the leader who has the power of life and death over you in the company, I hope you can be friends with me. Zhang Ruoyu opened the black leather bag and took out a stack of passes that looked like the ghost-suppressing talisman. This is our first meeting, and I don't know what you like, but considering that we are all in the catering industry, I took the initiative to ask the Beimong Army for some passes through my connections. Let's team up and see General Zhang off for the last time. We can also have a meal with the Northern Mang Army and see if we can learn some advanced cooking theories. The lounge was in complete chaos. Zhang Xianbei's popularity is even more exaggerated than those top stars, especially in Binhai. As a local, he is highly respected and admired. Tickets to attend General Zhang's memorial service have long become priceless treasures. The new chef reached out and pulled out a dozen bright yellow things. Are they really passes? Some people have raised questions. Chef, my cousin is serving in the Binhai military region. He told me this morning that there were only 25 tickets in the entire Binhai area. I guess your dozen is almost 200. An honest-looking employee hesitated. Is this really a pass to attend General Zhang's memorial service? It looks like it was burned at the grave. His tone was full of disbelief. As soon as these words were spoken, many employees started chattering. Zhang Ruoyu raised his right hand and pressed it, controlling the situation and saying, I didn't say it just now. I got it through my connections. And don't you think it's appropriate to design the pass like this? Anyway, as soon as I saw the pass, my heart immediately became heavy, as if a loved one had passed away. Seeing that everyone still didn't believe it, Zhang Ruoyu took out a pass and handed it to the nearest employee. Use your phone to scan the QR code on the pass, then enter your phone number, get the verification code and enter it again, and a pass code will pop up on your phone. 3 days later, you can use this pass code to attend the memorial service. The guy hesitated, fearing that this QR code would rob him of all his savings. But considering that the young man in front of him was the new head chef, he shouldn't be so mean, right? With a ding sound, the code was scanned and the Beimong military emblem and login bar appeared on the screen. After a series of operations, a bright yellow pass code popped up on the screen. Ding ding. The buddy suddenly received a call on his cell phone, and because he was nervous, he touched the speakerphone. Excuse me, is this Mr. Chen Lang? This is the Beimong Public Relations Department. You have obtained the pass code for General Zhang Xiangbei's memorial service. Please keep it properly to prevent theft. It was a woman's voice, magnetic, deep, and full of military power. The scene was completely silent. Chapter 19, Eat 5 meals a day. The conference room exploded. Everyone was going crazy and asking the handsome chef for a pass. Look at their fanatical eyes, as if they were looking at their father. Keep a low profile and keep it secret. Zhang Ruoyu pushed away the group of enthusiastic employees surrounding him and said proudly, if you follow Brother Zhang, you can eat 5 meals a day. Just as Zhang Ruoyu was enjoying the worship of his employees, a discordant voice rang out. Bang! A stern middle-aged man in a well-tailored suit stood at the door, scanning everyone with sharp eyes. Don't you all have to work? The group's meal is about to start, why don't you go to the kitchen to prepare? Everyone dispersed in a hurry. Although they were scolded, their work enthusiasm remained high. Zhang Ruoyu was very satisfied. He was praised wherever he went. This was his purpose in life. However, the stern middle-aged man did not seem to want to mingle with the employees. This touched Zhang Ruoyu's reverse scale. Are you Zhang Ruoyu? The new head chef? Wei Zhinder asked condescendingly. As the director of the catering department, the new head chef not only did not pay himself a visit, but instead mingled with the employees. What do you mean? You want to sideline me right after I joined the company? Or is it that President Han is already planning to start with the catering department? Facing Wei Zhinder's very rude questioning, Zhang Ruoyu sat down slowly on the chair. If your position is not as high as mine, I order you to go to the kitchen and get me a working meal immediately. I'm hungry. Wei Zhinder's eyes flashed with sternness, and he said coldly, I am the director of the catering department, your immediate superior. If you still want to be my boss. Zhang Ruoyu threw a cigarette into his mouth and said slowly. You'd better get me a working meal, and we can talk while we eat. Wei Zhinder was angry and was about to explode. But he heard that Zhang Ruoyu did enter the president's office before joining the company. Logically speaking, a head chef in the catering department is not qualified to meet with the president of Zhongxin Group. Unless they have an unusual relationship. Wei Zhinder held his breath, asked someone to order a work meal, and sat opposite Zhang Ruoyu. I really want to know, what ability do you have to take off my hat? After a busy morning, Zhang Ruoyu buried his head in his food and uttered a sentence incoherently. I came to work today in Mr. Han's car, and I sat in the passenger seat. Wei Zhinder's expression changed drastically. President Han, who usually dislikes the opposite sex getting close to her, actually tolerates a man riding in her car? If you still want to work hard in the catering department in the future, go and get me a bowl of soup. I choked because I ate too fast. Zhang Ruoyu urged. Wei Zhinder immediately got up to get the soup. This time he didn't call anyone but went there himself. But on their way back, he received a phone call. The content of the call was concise and to the point. Mr. Liang wanted to see Zhang Ruoyu. Liang Daosan, the executive vice president of Junxing Group, the selfless Han Jiangxue, had to call him Uncle Liang when he saw him. It has been 25 years since the founding of Junxing Group, and he has been working for Junxing for 25 years. He was also the right-hand man of the founder Han Jiangxue and a loyal minister of Junxing. Han Jiangxue has been in charge of Junxing for 5 years and has achieved remarkable results. But within the group, Liang Daosan was more powerful and had more people than her. Even in the first year when Han Jiangxue took charge of Junxing, she wanted to fire a middle-level leader, but Liang Daosan saved her with just one sentence. The next year, Liang Daosan wanted to fire a senior leader, and Han Jiangxue also personally stepped in to protect him. He was saved at the time, but 3 days later, the senior executive resigned and left Binhai. This is Liang Daosan, a man who served as the emperor of Junxing for 5 years after his father Han Jiangxue left Binhai before Han Jiangxue took charge of Junxing. Why does Mr. Liang want to meet a chef? Could it be that the dispute between Han and Liang has degenerated to the point of fighting over the chef? After Wei Jingder entered the room, he bent down unconsciously, held the soup in both hands and brought it to Zhang Ruoyu. After eating and drinking, Zhang Ruoyu glanced at Wei Jingder, who was standing next to him and didn't even dare to sit down. Anything else? No, I'm going to the cafeteria to do some research. You employees are all shaking your heads after eating the meal. Wei Jingder frowned and asked, why are you eating so happily? But he didn't dare to refute at the moment, but just reminded quietly, Mr. Liang wants to talk to you. Which Mr. Liang? Zhang Ruoyu raised his eyebrows. He had read the files of Junxing's senior management and found several people with the surname Liang. He wondered if they were from the same family. Mr. Liang Daosan. Wei Jingder said in a low voice. Half of Junxing's empire was conquered by him. Are you his? Zhang Ruoyu asked suddenly. Wei Jingder was shocked. No group can openly allow the formation of cliques, but any group is bound to form small groups. Mr. Liang has always taken good care of me. Wei Jingder said tactfully. Oh. Zhang Ruoyu responded lightly, and under the guidance of Wei Jingder, he came to Mr. Liang's office. Wei Jingder knocked on the door respectfully, but after receiving a response, he just stood outside the door and watched Zhang Ruoyu enter the house. The office is very big, even bigger than the president's office. Behind the huge desk sat a man in his 50s. Ever since Zhang Ruoyu entered the room, Liang Daishan's hawk-like eyes had been sizing him up. Your office is twice as big as my wife's. Zhang Ruoyu walked over and sat directly opposite Liang Daosan, asking him angrily. Why are you so arrogant? Liang Daosan narrowed his eyes slightly when he heard this. He revealed his identity right away without hiding anything. Does he want to intimidate me with his identity, or does he know he can't hide it and just reveal his true colors? Han Jiangxue has worked at Junxing for 5 years, and I've worked there for 25 years. Liang Daishan's voice was low and steady. If I want, my office can be 5 times bigger than hers. Chapter 20, Do some good deeds for your family. Zhang Ruoyu did not hide his identity. Liang Daosan did not hide his tyranny. As soon as the old man and the young man met, tension arose. Click. Zhang Ruoyu lit a cigarette and squinted at Liang Daosan. Then why isn't it 5 times bigger? Don't you want it? Liang Daishan's eyes flashed with a strange look, and he said calmly, You were so angry last night after your wedding, and you came to me to relieve your anger. Zhang Ruoyu heard this and suddenly grinned, his face full of evilness. Old rabbit, you are so coquettish. Liang Daishan's expression suddenly changed, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. In Junxing, he is a big shot with connections everywhere, and in Binhai, he is also able to call the shots. It has been many years since anyone dared to speak out in front of him. Oh no, he had never heard such dirty words in his life. This kid is a bit difficult to deal with. After a brief pause, Liang Daosan said calmly, Do you know why I'm looking for you? Zhang Ruoyu moved his chair back and said with disgust, I am loyal to Xiexue. I advise you to give up this idea. No matter how strong Liang Daishan's determination was, he was still somewhat broken by Zhang Ruoyu. This guy is holding on to me? Does he really think he is a rabbit? Young man, be polite. Liang Daosan frowned. That's enough. Zhang Ruoyu casually picked up a water cup from the table and flicked the ash off his cigarette, saying nonchalantly, "I have to go to the cafeteria to do some research, so if you have anything to say, just say it, don't play dumb with me." Liang Daosan is gradually getting used to Zhang Ruoyu's extremely offensive and uncertain style of doing things. But there was one thing he was sure of: this kid had something. "Are you willing to follow me?" Liang Daosan just finished speaking when he realized that the wording was not appropriate. The boy opposite him would most likely find an opportunity to disgust him, so he said, "Within a year, I will ensure that you will be promoted to the third person in Junshin, with an annual income of over 100 million. If you drink more, you will change my book of life and death as well." Zhang Ruoyu did not hide the contempt on his face. "What kind of promises are you, a wage earner, making to me, the number one husband of Junshin? As long as I want, Junshin will have to change his name today, Zhang Junshin. This is called taking their husband's surname." Afraid that he didn't understand, Zhang Ruoyu explained it a little further. Liang Daosan narrowed his eyes slightly and asked, "Why didn't you change it? Don't you want to?" Zhang Ruoyu raised his eyebrows. This old rabbit has a strong learning ability. He must have been a study committee member many times when he was in school, right? "Put away your rabbit smell." Zhang Ruoyu waved his hand and threw the cigarette butt into the water cup. "If you just want to poach people, I advise you to save your energy. Boss Han and I are in love and are in a passionate relationship. I will not betray her until the passion fades." "What a good man," Liang Daosan said lightly. "Do you think everyone is like you, who deep down doesn't accept their own gender?" Zhang Ruoyu said sarcastically. Liang Daosan twitched his lips and tried hard to maintain the composure of a big shot. "I want to ask you something." Zhang Ruoyu saw that Liang Daosan was not in a stable mood and suddenly attacked him. "My wife has been in danger many times recently. Are you behind this?" Liang Daosan raised his eyes and glanced at Zhang Ruoyu, with a sly smile on his lips. "I have been offending myself for a long time, trying to irritate myself and make myself lose control of my emotions, but this is what is waiting for me. I watched Jiangxue grow up. Although we have disagreements at work, in my eyes, she will always be a child who never grows up." Liang Daosan said calmly, "How can an elder hurt a younger generation? That makes sense." Zhang Ruoyu nodded thoughtfully, and suddenly said, "Let me say one more thing. If you really want to do something to her one day, don't involve me. I am innocent." Liang Daosan frowned, a little caught off guard. Zhang Ruoyu hadn't said a serious word since he entered the room, but the shrewd Liang Daosan couldn't control his expression several times, and even his thoughts went up and down. Liang Daosan, who wanted to test it out, felt like he was being tested instead. "Let's go." Zhang Ruoyu stood up, and before leaving, he suddenly stopped and turned back to ask, "Xiao Liang, is there anyone else at home?" Liang Daishan's face darkened and a cold light flashed in his eyes. "I really want to do something immoral, but think about your children and wife at home, and do some good for your family." Crunch. When the door closed automatically, Liang Daosan found that his hands had been clenched into fists. Even my breathing became unusually rapid and my heart was beating like a drum. Click. Liang Daosan lit a cigarette, took a deep puff, and his eyes fell on the file bag on the table. I opened it and took a look. Zhang Ruoyu, native of Binhai, 28 years old, served in Beimong for 10 years, raising pigs, growing vegetables, cooking, and became a squad leader before retiring. My mother was a Chinese teacher at Binhai No. 1 primary school. She was addicted to gambling and owed a huge amount of money. When she was on the run, she was hacked to death by her creditors. My father was an active duty military officer. After learning of his wife's death, he rushed back to attend the funeral. However, he was so sad that he drank 3 pounds of wine on the night of the banquet. When he was driving home drunk that night, he plunged into the sea and drowned. Liang Daosan exhaled thick smoke and his expression was a little blurry. It is not difficult to understand that children raised in this kind of family would behave in a perverted manner. Even reasonable. Picking up the phone on the table, Liang Daosan dialed the number and said directly, "Check him again, he should have something on him." Liang Daosan has been in the business world for decades and has met countless people. Based on his experience, Zhang Ruoyu couldn't be just a cook. Perhaps, his true identity is an old scout from Beimong? The reason for hiding your identity is because you have carried out confidential missions and need to keep it confidential. In short, Liang Daosan couldn't accept being scared into a cold sweat by a stinky cook. Chapter 21 makes my teeth hurt. After investigating in the cafeteria for 5 minutes, Zhang Ruoyu felt a little thirsty and decided to go back to the office for tea. Because the employees have received the valuable pass codes, they all treat the chef like their boss and show respect to him. Just raise your hand and the tea will come. As soon as the cigarette is in your mouth, the fire starts. This feeling of being at home is a bit like the original unit. Wei Jingder did not dare to underestimate this special envoy of President Han, but he did not deliberately get close to him and maintained an ordinary relationship as colleagues. It can be seen that the Han and Liang factions have long been at loggerheads. Zhang Ruoyu glanced at the Red Bull on the table, put it in his pocket, and walked to the president's office without even knocking on the door. Han Jiangxue was about to scold him when his work was disturbed, but when he looked up and saw that it was this dirty guy, he immediately lowered his head and said nothing. Zhang Ruoyu didn't blame her. It was normal for a normal person to be impolite after working intensively for nearly 36 hours without sleep. Bang! Zhang Ruoyu threw the Red Bull on the table and said casually, "Come on, drink a Red Bull. I guarantee you'll be full of energy and tremble with excitement." Han Jiangxue didn't even raise her head and said calmly, "If you don't want to make your relationship public, come to me less often. I really miss you. I miss you so much that I go crazy when I can't see you." Zhang Ruoyu curled his lips, opened a bottle of Red Bull, and poured it all into his water cup. "I've been working for less than 5 minutes, and that old rabbit surnamed Liang came to talk to me and asked me to backstab you. He said that if I worked with him, he would guarantee that I would reach the pinnacle of my life within a year, with an annual salary of 800 million. After saying that, he handed the Red Bull to Han Jiangxue. Han Jiangxue frowned and took the Red Bull. He drank both the coffee and tea, but still felt sleepy. He took a sip and said, "Liang Daosan does have this ability. When I become successful and famous, and my net worth exceeds 100 million, can I still get a divorce?" Zhang Ruoyu said with disdain, "We are not strangers, so don't beat around the bush. What do you like about me? I'll change it." Han Jiangxue raised his head and drank the entire glass of Red Bull before he was able to suppress the churning in his stomach. "If you have anything to say, just say it. I'm busy." Zhang Ruoyu sat down on the desk and pouted, "What's your attitude? I won't say any more." Han Jiangxue's body trembled and she felt numb. But if Zhang Ruoyu really stayed there, she would not be able to work, so she had to give in. "Go ahead." Han Jiangxue turned off the computer and sat upright to show respect. "I think Liang Daosan is the mastermind behind this," Zhang Ruoyu said firmly. "He won't do that." Han Jiangxue shook her head calmly. "Although Liang Daosan and I have a rift, he has no reason to do this." "Why?" Zhang Ruoyu asked. He had tried to test it just now, and judging from Liang Daishan's reactions, although the two had some grudges, it shouldn't have reached that stage. Now, he wanted to get a positive answer from Han Jiangxue. "If he hadn't taken the initiative to give up his position 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to get promoted," Han Jiangxue said calmly. "If he wanted to move me, it would have been more appropriate 5 years ago. Is it possible that he thought you were just an uneducated young lady back then?" Zhang Ruoyu said solemnly. "Now he finds out that you are quite capable. Does he regret it?" Han Jiangxue asked calmly, "Anything else? Can you be nicer to me?" Zhang Ruoyu said dissatisfiedly. "If I wasn't afraid of being implicated, do you think I would want to care about your trivial matters?" After Zhang Ruoyu finished speaking, he took out a piece of yellow talisman paper from his pocket and stuffed it into Han Jiangxue's pocket. "What?" Han Jiangxue dodged a little. "Passport." Zhang Ruoyu narrowed his eyes and said, "Don't want it." "Yes." Han Jiangxue reached out to take it, but she felt a little uneasy in her heart. "Is this a pass? It looks like something you burn at a grave." Zhang Ruoyu suddenly retracted his hand and said playfully, "Beg me. You ignored me just now, but now you think I am out of your reach." Han Jiangxue's outstretched hand froze. "Beg? I, Han Jiangxue, have never asked anyone for help in my life." "No." Zhang Ruoyu jumped off the table. "Then I'll leave. How can I beg?" Han Jiangxue gritted her teeth. "Call me brother." Zhang Ruoyu reached into his pockets with both hands. "Use the accent of the Queen of the Kingdom of Women in Journey to the West." I like that. Han Jiangxue's face turned pale, and her beautiful eyes widened. This bastard is playing dirty again. But in order to fulfill Xiaodong's wish, as an older sister, just call him brother. Brother, brother. Han Jiangxue's body was burning hot and she could not live any longer. When someone calls me brother, my bones are softened. Zhang Ruoyu threw the pass on the table, feeling very unhappy. You make my teeth hurt. After telling Han Jiangxue the scanning process, Zhang Ruoyu slammed the door and left. Han Jiangxue's pretty face turned pale with anger, but the pass was innocent. She picked up her phone and scanned the code. After successfully obtaining the pass code, she suddenly discovered that this is a one-person one-code system, which is bound to the mobile phone number and ID card. What about Xiaodong? If I go, will he see me go? Bang! Han Jiangxue slammed the desk hard, her fingers went numb and her palms ached. Next time when he asks for a ticket, Zhang Ruoyu feel disgusted with himself again. Han Jiangxue felt a pain in his chest due to anger, but he glanced at the pass out of the corner of his eye. There was a number clearly marked in the upper right corner of the ticket, 1. Is it the first pass ticket for the memorial service? Moreover, this ticket is completely different from the one Shen Yunqiao brought. Could it be that, in order to prove that Shen Yunqiao's ticket was fake, he went directly to Beimong to get a new pass? Are all previously issued passes invalid? If true, then his relationship in Beimong is so tough. Chapter 22, Grandpa is kind and Sun Xiao is filial. Shenjai. Shen Yunqiao, who was called home urgently by the old man, felt irritated. Grandpa, what happened? After being kicked out of Junxing Group, he contacted several project partners and prepared to put pressure on Han Jiangxue. Don't give me face. Then don't be so fucking shameless. Have you given the pass? Mr. Shen is wearing a straight Chinese tunic suit. Although he is old, he is full of energy. Chen Yun muttered at the corner of his lips, unable to speak. The old man spent a lot of favors to get this pass, which is very popular throughout Binhai. As a result, Shen Yunqiao forced it in and didn't even get it out. He was afraid that Grandpa would be disappointed, and even more afraid that Grandpa would be angry and call him a waste. Are you deaf? Seeing that his grandson was coy and silent, the old man became a little anxious. Did you give it to Han Jiangxue? And no. Shen Yunqiao was frightened by the old man, so he confessed and was lenient. He was about to quibble about why he didn't send it out, but the old man spread his hands and said, "Give me the ticket." Shen Yunqiao explained anxiously. Grandpa, it's not that I don't want to send it, it's that I haven't made time yet. Please give me another chance. It's over. The old man must have felt that he had made no progress after chasing Han Jiangxue for so long, and he had completely lost his patience. Where did you come from with so much nonsense? Where are the tickets? Take them out. Although the old man's tone was serious, he obviously lost his impatience. When Shen Yunqiao saw this, he had no choice but to take out the pass out of frustration and return it to his grandfather tremblingly. Grandpa, Fortunately you didn't give it away. Mr. Shen folded the ticket and put it in his pocket. Otherwise I will suffer the same consequences. When Shen Yunqiao heard this, his expression suddenly changed. What does it mean that I'm lucky I haven't given it away yet? What, you damn old ghost, are you afraid that I won't be able to win Han Jiangxue even if I give you the ticket, which is a waste of your resources? Who are you showing such a stinky face to? The old man glared at his grandson and grunted without asking him to play riddles with him. I have just been notified that the Beimong Dissatisfaction Pass has entered the market and been priced at sky-high prices. They also said this was a smear and insult to General Zhang Xiangbei. In anger, Beimong cancelled all the previously issued passes and decided to redo them. After hearing this, Shen Yunqiao broke into a cold sweat. He finally understood why Grandpa would say that he was lucky not to give it away. If he really had to give it away, what would Han Jiangxue think of the Shen family? How will I behave in the future? In a daze, he remembered Zhang Ruoyu's oath that the pass was fake. Have you ever opened your fucking mouth? Grandpa, ask someone for 2 more, and I will bring them to Han Jiangxue in a moment. Shen Yunqiao calmed down. Didn't the man named Han say he had a ticket before? Is it invalid now? Getting this vote doesn't depend on your net worth, it depends on your connections. Beimong is all angry because the tolls are flowing into the market. No matter how rich you are, you won't be able to get the tickets. I, Shen Yunqiao, have to do it myself. I've already taken care of everything before you come back and I'm in the process of doing it. The old man looked at his watch and said calmly, look at the time, there should be news soon. Shen Yunqiao sat down with comfort, but found that his back was wet. The old man was scared to death just now, but now it seems that there is another bright future. Mr. Han, your vote will be invalidated later. Do you still dare to show off to me and pretend to be aloof? Within a few minutes, the old man answered the phone, but with a deep frown, he hung up the phone with an annoyed look on his face after a few responses. Bang! Patting his phone on the table, Mr. Shen said angrily, a bunch of heartless white-eyed wolves. When Shen Yunqiao saw this, he hurriedly asked, Grandpa, what's wrong? Those bastards are playing football there, and no one is willing to give an accurate answer. Although Mr. Shen was angry, his mind did not stop. Which big shot have you offended recently? Otherwise, it would be impossible for those bastards to push back and forth. After thinking about it, the old man's head almost exploded and he couldn't think of a reason. I didn't offend anyone. I did my duty after retreating. I didn't even leave the house very much. Who would deliberately mess with me? He glanced at Shen Yunqiao from the corner of his eye and shook his head without thinking much. How could this grandson offend a big shot who didn't even have the chance to offend him? There will be no chance in the next life. You go to work first, and I will come back to you when you get the letter. Mr. Shen lit a cigarette and frowned. Remember what I said, if you can take down Han Jiangxue, it's up to you to make the decision for the Shen family. Thank you, Grandpa, I will never let you down. Shen Yun issued a military order. Ding ding. The cell phone on the table rang again. Shen Yunqiao's eyebrows were filled with joy, and the old man's expression became much calmer. He even waited for a few seconds before answering in a pretentious manner. A bunch of little bastards, how dare they deny face to their old leader? But throughout the process of answering the phone, the old man went from sitting upright to restless. In the end, he stood up and shouted, a bunch of sons of bitches. He slammed his phone. Shen Yunqiao's heart skipped a beat, feeling that something was wrong. He has never seen Grandpa get so angry. Grandpa, what's wrong? These grandsons, the old man scolded his mother. Before, I was still pushing back and forth. It seemed like I took the ticket and turned around to exchange money to buy a coffin. It's better now. Just tell me directly that the Beimong Army has issued a death order. The votes can be given to anyone, but not to the person named Shen. Shen Yunqiao was dumbfounded. Why can't it be given to someone named Shen? Those bastards said that Beimong just made a fortune telling that his mother's surname is Shen and Zhang Xiangbei are in conflict with each other. I'm afraid that the person named Shen will go and ruin the feng shui of the cemetery. Grass. Shen Yunqiao almost burst a blood vessel. Is there anyone who bullies others like this? After the old man was furious for a while, he sat down feeling a little dizzy. After calming down, my heart was filled with guilt and self-blame towards my grandson. It's my own fault. Either his old enemy has risen up and is deliberately trying to disgust him, or he has offended some big shot recently without realizing it. Otherwise, would Beimong call me by name and disgust me? But who on earth is this person? Why don't I have any impression of him? Am I really suffering from Alzheimer's? Yunqiao, there's no hope for this pass. But don't worry, Grandpa will definitely fully support you in pursuing Han Jiangxue. The old man let out a breath, feeling uncomfortable. It was already difficult for him to let this useless grandson pursue the daughter of the Han family. As a result, I can't even get a pass now. The old man could only support his grandson mentally. Come on, Grandpa is optimistic about you. Seeing that such a proud grandpa was being wronged for his own affairs, Shen Yunqiao's eyes turned red and he gritted his teeth and said, Grandpa, don't worry, I can't take down Han Jiangxue, I'll show you my head. Before turning around and walking away, he stamped his feet and gave a military salute. His face was filled with the tragic feeling of failure. Chapter 23 I'll find a place for you. At dinner time, Zhang Ruoyu, who had eaten and drank enough, came to the canteen again to investigate. This time, because there were mostly female employees in the research area, he stayed enthusiastically for half an hour. If Han Jiangxue hadn't kept calling and urging him, Zhang Ruoyu could have done the research for another half hour. Arriving at the parking lot, Zhang Ruoyu walked to the car with a straight face. Get out of the car. Han Jiangxue remained motionless, her tone cold and a little tired. I'm very tired and don't want to argue with you. Snap. Zhang Ruoyu opened the car door savagely and said in an almost commanding tone, "Get out of the car." Han Jiangxue was furious and was about to scold him when she heard Zhang Ruoyu say calmly, "You haven't slept for almost 40 hours. I don't want to die a violent death." Han Jiangxue's anger gradually subsided after hearing this, and she got out of the car and sat in the passenger seat. Zhang Ruoyu started the car and glanced at Han Jiangxue, who looked exhausted. "If you're tired, take a nap. I have to video chat with my aunt later. I don't want her to doubt my aesthetics." Han Jiangxue didn't have the energy to argue and slowly closed her eyes. The car slowly drove out of the parking lot. Zhang Ruoyu seemed to be concentrating on driving, but his peripheral vision swept across several black cars. Those cars appeared on their way to work. "You are the president of Junshin, with a net worth of hundreds of billions, so why don't you have a driver? Doesn't the group have a driver team?" Zhang Ruoyu asked casually. "I don't like the feeling of having my fate controlled by others," Han Jiangxue said with her eyes closed. Besides fatigue, there was also a hint of loneliness on that beautiful face. Zhang Ruoyu didn't ask any more questions. Just like Han Jiangxue had looked up his information, he was not completely ignorant of Han Jiangxue. "My father ran away from home 10 years ago, saying that there was a conflict between father and daughter, but I have no idea what the deeper reason was. She hadn't seen her mother since she could remember, and her life or death was unknown. The note on the file is missing. Han Dong is her half-brother, and their relationship may seem ordinary, but it is actually very deep. This can be seen from the fact that Han Jiangxue was willing to call Zhang Ruoyu brother in order to get the pass. Born into a wealthy family, his family was broken. After graduation, he landed in the family business, surrounded by fierce enemies and made countless enemies. In such a situation, one must be extremely vigilant and find it difficult to open one's heart and accept others." Bang! The car body suddenly shook violently, waking up Han Jiangxue, who was resting with her eyes closed. It turned out that a black car violently smashed the Porsche's rearview mirror in order to overtake. "Are you okay?" Zhang Ruoyu tilted his head to look at Han Jiangxue. It turned out that in the collision just now, Han Jiangxue's snow-white forehead hit the car window due to her unstable sitting posture, and it immediately became red and swollen. "It's okay." Han Jiangxue frowned slightly, and did not blame Zhang Ruoyu for driving unsteadily because of being awakened. "Has something similar happened before?" "Yeah." Han Jiangxue nodded calmly. Zhang Ruoyu glanced at the black car blocking the road ahead with no sign of stopping, narrowed his eyes and asked, "It seems that you not only have many enemies, but also deep hatred." Han Jiangxue opened her red lips slightly and said, "I have neither committed any crime nor cheated anyone. They hate me because they are incompetent." Zhang Ruoyu nodded and said, "That makes sense. What if I told you that if I hadn't reacted quickly, the car in front of us might have knocked us over the guardrail and rushed out of the 8-meter-high bridge? Will you still look at the problem this way?" Han Jiangxue's expression suddenly changed, and she said in a deep voice, "They are murdering me." "Yes, it's murder," Zhang Ruoyu said firmly. "In broad daylight, they actually wanted to kill us. Is there still the rule of law? Is there still law?" Han Jiangxue was about to ask Zhang Ruoyu to stop the car and call the police, but Zhang Ruoyu suddenly asked, "Have you bought full insurance for your car? What are you going to do?" Han Jiangxue's heart tightened. "Fasten your seat belts and hold onto the handles." Zhang Ruoyu opened his thin lips slightly, his usual smile swept away, and he said calmly, "I'll find a place for you." Whoosh! The Porsche whizzed away like a flash of lightning. Han Jiangxue felt a strong push on his back, and in just a moment, the front of the car hit the back of the black car. Bang! The bumper was completely scrapped and the black car swayed from side to side, rubbing against the guardrail and producing dazzling flames. Bang! Another fierce collision. Han Jiangxue's face turned pale, and she stammered for a long time without saying a word. Although she was a little nervous and a little scared. But she didn't want to be looked down upon by Zhang Ruoyu. Bang! The continuous collisions made Han Jiangxue's whole body numb, and beads of sweat appeared on the palms of her hands holding the handles. When he glanced sideways at Zhang Ruoyu, he had no expression at all, even his dark eyes were calm. Crunch! The black car was finally forced to stop. "If I don't stop, I might really be knocked off the bridge." Bang! 5 or 6 young men in suits with murderous looks on their faces rushed out of the black car, each holding an iron rod, and surrounded the Porsche. Bang! A young man smashed the windshield with a stick and yelled, "Get out of the car." Several other people also smashed the car body frantically, forcing the two men to get out. Han Jiangxue's heart tightened. No matter how good her mental state is, it is difficult for her to cope with such a situation. And looking at the brutal attitude of those young men, if they really go out, they will definitely be beaten to death with sticks. You should stop being such a spoiled brat in the future. Zhang Ruoyu sat motionless in the driver's seat and glanced at Han Jiangxue. Since we are being followed like this, let's hire some bodyguards. Only when you are alive can you realize your self-worth and have the capital to be willful. When you die, you have nothing. After saying that, Zhang Ruoyu pushed open the car door like a tiger that had been awakened. Several young men outside the car were shouting, but the moment the door was opened, they fell silent. The door opened. Murderous aura like a flood gushed out from the car door, as if it was going to drown them alive. What came out seemed not to be a human, but a wild beast. Chapter 24. There is a smell of blood. Bang! Zhang Ruoyu pushed the door open and got out of the car, then closed the door behind him. Seeing this scene, Han Jiangxue's heart trembled slightly. This man wants to protect himself. Want to face those 6 desperate criminals alone. Is this still the soldier who talks nonsense? Is he still the bastard who is sarcastic all day long and wants to make himself angry to death? Ever since his father ran away from home 10 years ago, Han Jiangxue seemed to have grown up overnight. She relies on herself for everything and no longer depends on anyone else. Over the past 10 years, she has made it step by step, relying on her own hard work, talent and stubbornness. Suddenly there was a man to protect her from the wind and rain, especially Zhang Ruoyu. She felt mixed emotions. Come on, come here. Zhang Ruoyu waved to the young man holding a stick in front of him. The young man was provoked by Zhang Ruoyu and immediately roared, "I will kill you." The iron rod swung and hit Zhang Ruoyu's head. Bang! Before the iron rod fell, Zhang Ruoyu slapped him. In an instant, the young man's head exploded and half of his face swelled up like a pig's head. Then, Zhang Ruoyu grabbed the young man's hair and smashed his head against the car body. Bang! Bang! After a series of collisions, the young man collapsed to the ground like a puddle of mud. Come here. Zhang Ruoyu waved to the second young man. But he felt it was too slow, so he glanced at the 5 people and said calmly, "Come here." The 5 men were frightened and took a few steps back. Not to mention how ruthless Zhang Ruoyu was, just that slap in the face was enough to dumbfound everyone. How can a slap break a mouth full of teeth? How can a slap crooked someone's nose? Are you a monster? Since they were unwilling to come, Zhang Ruoyu did not give in and just walked straight up. He held an iron rod in his hand and hit the legs and the heads. In just 30 seconds, all the desperate criminals who came with such aggressive momentum were knocked down and couldn't even shout. Zhang Ruoyu dealt with them, turned around, opened the car door, and reached out to Han Jiangxue, who was pretending to be calm. "Give me the phone. I've called the police." Although Han Jiangxue said this, she still handed the phone to Zhang Ruoyu. "You spendthrift woman, are you calling the police to arrest me?" Zhang Ruoyu took the phone and checked the number. "I think this is excessive self-defense. Your divorce method is quite shady." As he was talking, he had already found Han Jiangxue's number. After the call was connected, Han Jiangxue's urgent voice came from the other end. "How is the young lady? How long will it take?" Zhang Ruoyu stood by the bridge railing and lit a cigarette with an expressionless face. 3 minutes. Han Jiangxue's heart trembled. This kid actually knew he was coming? "Hurry up," she called the police. Zhang Ruoyu hung up the phone and blew out a smoke ring. Han Jiangxue said it would take 3 minutes, but he arrived before Zhang Ruoyu had even finished smoking his cigarette. More than a dozen vehicles swarmed to protect the crime scene. Several young men in suits who had fallen to the ground were carried into the car, and even the bloodstains at the scene were quickly cleaned up. Judging from their methods, they are all veterans. Han Jiangxue leaned through the window to confirm that Han Jiangxue only had a scratch on his forehead and was not seriously injured. Then he walked towards Zhang Ruoyu with lingering fear. "Thank you. If you hadn't been in the car this time." Bang! Before Han Jiangxue finished his words, Zhang Ruoyu slapped him on the face, which was still swollen. This scene made Han Jiangxue's followers angry again, but thinking of what happened last night, they dared not say anything. "Before we get married, her life or death has nothing to do with me." How you want to protect her is your business, I don't care. Zhang Ruoyu held the cigarette butt and took a last puff, then flicked it with his fingertips and threw it into the sea. Now, she is my wife. If she dies, I will be a widow and I will have to wear sackcloth and keep vigil. Zhang Ruoyu's face no longer had the frivolous look of last night, and the look he gave Han Jiangxue was deep and penetrating. Han Jiangxue's heart beat suddenly, and he said in a low voice, "Good fight." After saying that, he took out a cigarette, handed one to Zhang Ruoyu, and then lit it for him himself. If something really happened to the young lady, I would be too ashamed to see my godfather. Han Jiangxue also lit a cigarette for himself. Men don't necessarily need to use words every time. Taking action is often more direct and more effective. Thank you, Han Jiangxue said again. The young lady's experience this time was extremely dangerous. If Zhang Ruoyu hadn't been there, she might have really lost her life. On their way here, he imagined many possible outcomes, and each one made him break out in a cold sweat. Keep an eye on her. Zhang Ruoyu stood on the bridge, overlooking the night view of Binhai. We've only been married for 1 day. If she really dies, people will say I'm unlucky. Han Jiangxue was stunned for a moment, then nodded heavily. I understand. My mind is filled with a myriad of thoughts. When he met Zhang Ruoyu last night, he gave him a very bad impression. Even with the support of the Northern Mang Army, Han Jiangxue still didn't like him. But tonight, he changed his mind about Zhang Ruoyu. He even had an inexplicable illusion that the elite soldiers from the Northern Mang came to see him not out of so-called comradeship, but out of genuine admiration for this cook. What are you going to do with them? Zhang Ruoyu asked casually. Han Jiangxue raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He had a vague guess, but wasn't sure. After all, the man standing in front of him was a recently retired cook, his uniform still warm. After all, he and I are not from the same world. Some words, if said too much, would harm him instead. Just as he was about to choose his words, Zhang Ruoyu spoke up, "They smell of blood." Han Jiangxue's heart trembled, and he looked at Zhang Ruoyu suspiciously. But Zhang Ruoyu didn't say anything else. He threw away his cigarette butt and said, "I'm leaving first. You clean my butt." Han Jiangxue nodded thoughtfully, then refilled his cigarette and leaned against the bridge railing in deep thought. "Boss, let's withdraw first." After handling the scene, a trusted aide stepped forward, his brows full of anger. "Those guys, should we deal with them according to the old rules?" The so-called old rules are to use torture first, regardless of whether it is possible to pry open the mouth, cut off their hands and feet, and drive them out of Binhai. No. Han Jiangxue shook his head lightly, finally understanding the meaning of Zhang Ruoyu's words. The smell of blood on your body means you are carrying human lives. Don't let them speak again, Han Jiangxue said coldly. The confidant was stunned for a moment, then took the order and left. This guy is really a cook, Han Jiangxue muttered to himself as he stared at the Porsche going further and further away. Chapter 25. I'm in a bad mood. The Porsche slowly drove towards the dangerous building, which could lose water and electricity at any time. The surrounding area was pitch black because of the suspension of construction. Click. Zhang Ruoyu pushed the door open and got out of the car, saying calmly, "You weren't scared by the way I hit you just now, were you?" "Not bad." Han Jiangxue looked solemn. These words didn't sound like concern at all, but rather like a threat. "Why did you hit Han Jiangxue?" Han Jiangxue followed Zhang Ruoyu upstairs. Compared to last night, she was not so reluctant to go back home. "He had a duty to protect you," Zhang Ruoyu said casually. "But he failed in his duty." "You hit him because he didn't protect me," Han Jiangxue said with her red lips slightly opened. "You care about me." "Yes, I care about you so much. If you die, I won't live either." Zhang Ruoyu rolled his eyes. Han Jiangxue's expression froze and she was speechless. After returning home, Zhang Ruoyu gave Han Jiangxue a few instructions, then took out his cell phone to send a video to his aunt. Somehow, Han Jiangxue, who was sitting next to him, felt a little nervous. Does this count as meeting the parents? Soon, a beautiful face appeared in the picture. She was so beautiful that Han Jiangxue wanted to touch up her makeup. "Aunt, good evening." Zhang Ruoyu waved and put his arm around Han Jiangxue's soft shoulders. The woman in the video has a gentle temperament and her clothes are very tasteful. Especially those big, watery eyes, which make me feel even more pity for them. After just one look, Han Jiangxue was confused. Didn't you say that my aunt is not in good health and we should just take it one day at a time? You look healthy and your big, watery eyes are so charming. Good. In the video, the aunt glanced at the two people who were in an intimate manner and asked softly, "Have you got the marriage certificate?" "I got it." Zhang Ruoyu picked up the marriage certificate he had prepared in advance and waved it in front of the video. "It's fresh out of the oven." "That's good." The aunt nodded slightly and glanced at Han Jiangxue. "What's wrong with your forehead?" "I hit it on the bed last night." Zhang Ruoyu explained hurriedly, not wanting to make his aunt worry. "Be careful." My aunt seemed to understand the hidden meaning and said softly, "No matter what time, your health comes first." "I know, auntie." Zhang Ruoyu looked at the background of the video and asked curiously, "Auntie, why are you still in the car so late?" "Well, I have to meet a client later." Auntie smiled. "For a living." "Aunt, you should also pay more attention to rest and don't get too tired," Zhang Ruoyu said with concern. This time when he returned to Yangjing, he had a general understanding of his aunt's current living conditions. "I'm a department manager at a listed group. My job is respectable and my income is not bad, but it's a bit tiring and I'm still single." "Okay." My aunt smiled and nodded, and then she looked at the two of them deeply before saying, "I forgot to congratulate you. Happy wedding." Zhang Ruoyu responded guiltily, not knowing how long this marriage could make his aunt happy. "Go to bed early. My aunt has to go to meet a client. We can talk another day." "Good night, aunt," Zhang Ruoyu said with a smile. Smiling gently, Lin Qingxi hung up the video on his own initiative, as if he didn't want to disturb the newlyweds' world of two. But the moment the video was turned off, the smile on her face suddenly disappeared. The softness and gentleness in his eyes seemed to have never appeared before, and there was a chill in his eyes. "Boss, the Yi family is here." The driver parked the car and said with relief, "Just driving a car feels like being thrown into a frying pan, making me feel heartbroken." Lin Qingxi raised her eyes slightly and saw that the car door had been opened. As she got out of the car, someone immediately held up a black umbrella to shield her from the rain. Tonight, it rained heavily in Yangjing City. The old and wealthy Yi family is on the verge of collapse. Lin Qingxi walked towards the Yi family mansion, with hundreds of black umbrellas behind him blocking the sky, and hundreds of luxury cars blocking the Yi family's house, making a huge noise. Although it was raining heavily, it seemed silent. Not far away, more than a dozen shivering members of the Yi family were kneeling at the gate, their bodies soaked. They are all the backbone of the Yi family and were once big shots in Yangjing City. Tonight, they knelt at their doorstep, welcoming the arrival of a great devil. The Yi family was defeated. They had to kneel at the feet of the big devil. Perhaps if they surrender, the Yi family can still gain a foothold in Yangjing City and have a place for them to survive. The sound of high heels hitting the floor gradually came, and each sound covered up the sound of rain and pierced into the hearts of the Yi family. "She is here." The devil-like woman from the Lin family came to the Yi family. "Boss Lin, no matter what conditions you propose, the Yi family can negotiate. Please be merciful." The representative of the Lin family didn't even dare to raise his head. By kneeling to welcome this woman, the Yi family has already lost all family honor. All they want is the qualification to survive. Let's not talk about it anymore. Lin Qingxi looked down at him, without any tenderness in his eyes. What we have is just devilish indifference and cruelty. When Zhang Ruoyu waved the bright red marriage certificate in front of her, the emotions that she had suppressed in her heart for more than 20 years completely collapsed. "I'm not in a good mood tonight." Lin Qingxi pushed open the black umbrella above his head and let the biting cold rain soak his whole body. At this moment, she was like a ghost in the dark night, walking in front of the Yi family. The red lips that looked particularly scarlet due to the paleness of her face slowly opened, "But I don't want to be in a bad mood alone. The Yi family will accompany me." After saying that, she turned and left. The dark black umbrellas parted to both sides, making way for Lin Qingxi. All the young men in suits holding umbrellas had awe-filled looks in their eyes, as if they were staring at a god. After getting the answer, the Yi family members collapsed to the ground, kneeling down and wailing, screaming at the top of their lungs. Tonight, the woman from the Lin family said that she was in a bad mood, and the Yi family, which had been rooted in the capital for more than 30 years, was completely expelled. Chapter 26. Where is the dog's eyes looking? Zhang Ruoyu hung up the video with a weird expression and muttered, "Auntie is acting weird today. She doesn't seem very happy. Is she blaming me for not informing her immediately after getting the marriage certificate?" Zhang Ruoyu shook his head and was about to take the red basin to take a bath when Han Jiangxue spoke. "She doesn't like me." "Who doesn't like you?" Zhang Ruoyu said perfunctorily, as he had something on his mind. "Your aunt." Han Jiangxue raised her eyes and glanced at Zhang Ruoyu. "How did you know?" Zhang Ruoyu came back to his senses. "Intuition." Han Jiangxue opened her red lips slightly and said, "The way she looked at me was wrong, hostile." "Do you mind?" Zhang Ruoyu asked suddenly. "Do you want my aunt to treat you as her own child, to be caring and sincere to you?" Han Jiangxue stammered with her red lips, unable to utter a word. "This bastard has a stinky mouth. Han Jiangxue, can you put yourself in the right position like me?" Zhang Ruoyu said very disappointedly. "Your grandma is so nice to me that it almost takes my breath away, and you want my aunt to like you too. I beg you, okay? Next time you see my aunt, use that honey-covered little mouth of yours to disgust her. Don't pretend to be a good wife and mother to curry favor with my aunt like you did tonight. If you keep going like this, she will block the door and force us to reproduce." After saying these words, Zhang Ruoyu went into the bathroom holding the red wash basin with a look of grief. Han Jiangxue, on the other hand, was so angry that she was shaking all over. She stood up so suddenly that she almost fell over. Han Jiangxue stood up with the help of a suitcase and dragged it into their house to change the sheets and quilt covers. Zhang Ruoyu used patched rough cloth to make the bed, which made her feel uncomfortable. Because the bed was on the floor, Han Jiangxue had to kneel down to tidy it up. In order to avoid hurting her hips, she also brought a soft mattress pad. But even so, the sleeping environment was still too bad, and she was afraid that she would still suffer from insomnia tonight. "If I can't fall asleep anymore, sudden death is just a matter of time." As she was doing this, Han Jiangxue suddenly felt a burning gaze coming from behind. Even if she didn't turn around, she still felt ashamed of being violated. "My heart suddenly burned with anger, and when I turned around, I saw it was true." Zhang Ruoyu, wearing shorts and a vest, was standing at the door with a fiery look in his eyes. "Where are you looking at?" Han Jiangxue was so angry that her face turned cold. "This shameless bastard actually took advantage of me not paying attention and peeked at my buttocks?" Zhang Ruoyu suddenly came back to his senses, but there was no trace of embarrassment on his face as he was caught in the act. On the contrary, his face darkened and he said righteously, "Han Jiangxue, do you remember how I made 3 rules with you before we got married yesterday? I said it at the time. And I emphasized it several times. Don't seduce me. Did you turn a deaf ear to what I said?" Han Jiangxue was dumbfounded, unable to believe it. "You've been caught in the act, and you're still crying thief. How can people be so shameless and vulgar?" Before Han Jiangxue could come to her senses, Zhang Ruoyu shouted in a sonorous voice, "Han Jiangxue, I don't believe you don't know how hot your body is. I even more don't believe you don't know how terrible your waist-to-hip ratio is. You're kneeling on the floor with your butt sticking up to make the bed right in front of me? There's a band-aid on your forehead. Are you trying to play the game of battle-damaged beauty with me? Han Jiangxue, I want to ask you right now, have you ever respected me? Do you still want a divorce?" Han Jiangxue was completely dumbfounded. In her 5 years in the business world, she had seen thieves crying "stop thief" before, but this was the first time she had caught someone like Zhang Ruoyu. It is undeniable that her action was indeed indecent, but what could she do? Standing on the floor with 1-meter-long white legs. Is it within reach? Besides, my actions were indecent, so why couldn't you avoid them? Did you have to peek? I know what you're thinking. Zhang Ruoyu seemed to be able to read minds and said in a deep voice, "You want to ask me why I am watching? Why don't you avoid it? Let me be frank. I've been in the army for 10 years, and I think even sows are pretty. Every time I greet the cleaning lady in the cafeteria, my face turns red and my heart beats fast. After looking at her for a long time, I think she is as beautiful as a fairy. Look at your level again. What's your posture? Can I not feel weak in the knees when I see you? Can I walk? That's enough." Han Jiangshue's face was full of frost, and for the first time she felt bad about her own poor speaking skills. To be sure, it's hard to argue with him, but this bastard's logic isn't he entirely wrong? After being a monk for a long time, he really has no resistance to the opposite sex. Han Jiangxue can understand this. Besides, they are a legal couple after all. If they get furious after just a glance, that would be narrow-minded. Be more careful next time. Han Jiangxue took a deep breath, bit her red lips, and let it go. You too. Zhang Ruoyu said with a straight face. I am in my prime, full of vigor and vitality. How can I bear it if you keep doing this? Han Jiangxue frowned and said coldly, turn off the lights and go to sleep. Can't I just hide if I can't win the argument? Zhang Ruoyu was obedient. He turned off the lights and climbed into bed, but he tossed and turned but couldn't fall asleep. It was the first time in his life that he had seen that scene. The visual impact was so great that it was still replaying in his mind. Are you asleep? Zhang Ruoyu asked, as he couldn't sleep anyway. No. The voice was cold, but full of fatigue. Neither do I. Zhang Ruoyu said. I was so tired from being scolded by you just now that I can't sleep. Is that human language? What did I scold you for? Aren't you scolding me for seducing you and disrespecting you? Han Jiangxue closed his eyes and said nothing. If you still can't sleep tonight, let's move tomorrow. Zhang Ruoyu said in a deep voice. Let's live in Han's house. I don't believe the old lady can stand me. Han Jiangxue's eyes lit up. If she could move, she wouldn't be so sleepy. But I was alert for only a short while before the strong sleepiness came back. She hadn't slept for almost 48 hours and she really couldn't take it anymore. Come and chat with me for a while. Actually, I have a lot of shining points. If you want to know, I will tell you. Zhang Ruoyu said. Han Jiangxue's mind was like mush, and she couldn't even hear clearly what was said. How about we talk about your savior Zhang Xiangbei? Zhang Ruoyu said to himself. He is the man I admire most in my life, a true man of steel. Han Jiangxue was completely stunned when she heard the word pure man. Before going to bed, she still had a concern. If she could fall asleep, would this bastard not move? Compared to the old lady being disgusted, she wanted to sleep with dignity. Seeing that Han Jiangxue was completely motionless, Zhang Ruoyu curled his lips and said, still picking a bed. If you're desperate, you can still sleep among a pile of dead bodies. Call. In the darkness, a faint snoring sound was heard. Zhang Ruoyu frowned, leaned forward to make sure Han Jiangxue was soundly asleep, and could not help but tiptoe out of bed and approached Han Jiangxue, who was only wearing silk pajamas. She smelled fragrant, and in the moonlight, I could clearly see her beautiful face and her plump body that was so plump that water could be squeezed out of it. Because summer was approaching, Han Jiangxue was only covered with a thin blanket, revealing her graceful curves. Zhang Ruoyu thought for a moment with a serious expression. Finally, he reached out and lifted the thin blanket, then slowly pulled it up and covered Han Jiangxue's head. In an instant, the already faint snoring sound completely disappeared. Zhang Ruoyu climbed back contentedly and slept soundly with the quilt between him. Chapter 27, You can move, but you have to pay extra. My parents died when I was 8 years old. They spent so little time together that they didn't even leave me a family photo. In the passenger seat, Zhang Ruoyu was eating fried dough sticks and soy milk, and said solemnly, I have lived in this house for 18 years. It carries all my youth and memories. It is also the only thought my parents left me. Han Jiangxue's skin, which had been catching up on some sleep, was rosy and smooth. Although I was a little dissatisfied with Zhang Ruoyu's inconsistency, I felt relieved after hearing his explanation. Besides, I slept very well last night. Can I, Han Jiangxue, change my bed and not sleep there? Seeing Zhang Ruoyu's sad face, Han Jiangxue said calmly, if you don't want to move, forget it. I have the final say on whether the building should be demolished or not. We are husband and wife after all, and I don't want to make things difficult for you. Zhang Ruoyu stuffed half a fried dough stick into his mouth and said incoherently. You can move, but you have to pay extra. Han Jiangxue frowned, and suddenly felt that this bastard was not unreasonable. At least, he knew how to think about himself. You name a price. Han Jiangxue pursed her lips and said. Of course everyone is happy to be able to move, as you don't have to live in a dangerous building or sleep on the floor. The group project can also be carried out smoothly. Without this piece of land, the loss will be at least 100 million yuan. 1 billion. Zhang Ruoyu opened his mouth. Family love cannot be measured by money. Xiexue, you should understand that the reason I made concessions was entirely because of you. Han Jiangxue's face turned cold, knowing that she had been fooled by this bastard again. He never thought about moving at all, but he was still pretending to be so. Isn't it disgusting? You could have just gone and robbed me, but you gave me a house instead. Han Jiangxue said with a straight face. You're such a good person. We are one family, so we don't have to talk behind each other's backs. Zhang Ruoyu took out a crumpled pass from his pocket and wiped the grease off his hands. This is the only project you have. If you change someone else, I can turn him into a poor peasant. Han Jiangxue shut up tactfully. If she continued talking, she would lose her temper. Beep. Han Jiangxue's cell phone rang. It was his younger brother Han Dong calling. Hello. Han Jiangxue said calmly. Sister, did my brother-in-law give you the ticket? I heard that the previous pass was circulated on the market, which angered Beimong Army, so he directly invalidated the ticket and remade it. In my opinion, the supply of tickets will become increasingly scarce, so you have to ask my brother-in-law to hurry up, otherwise you won't be able to get it. Han Dong's nervous voice came from the other end of the phone. I got it. Han Jiangxue glanced at Zhang Ruoyu, who was wiping his hands with the pass, and felt terrible. Got it? That's great. Where are you, sister? I'll come and get it right away. Han Dong said excitedly. He just gave me one. Han Jiangxue was a little embarrassed. One is enough. Han Dong on the other end of the phone was silent for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, I can't care about other people's lives anymore. This one is mine. Han Jiangxue was used to being arrogant, so it was difficult for her to explain to her brother. Especially explaining in front of Zhang Ruoyu, it was so embarrassing. What do you mean? Han Dong was both shocked and angry. You won't give me a ticket. You want to go by yourself. I'm driving, hanging up. Han Jiangxue guessed how harsh his brother's next words would be, so he simply hung up. The carriage fell into silence. Zhang Ruoyu was so ungentlemanly that he crumpled up the pass into a ball, opened the window and threw it out. It was as if he was afraid that Han Jiangxue would secretly pick it up and give it to Han Dong after getting off the car. There are only 2 days left. Han Jiangxue glanced at Zhang Ruoyu coldly. How long are you going to torture Xiaodong? Look at what you said. How could I torture my brother-in-law? Zhang Ruoyu smiled with narrowed eyes. Don't worry, I have arranged everything. Really? Han Jiangxue was skeptical. When have I ever lied to you? Zhang Ruoyu asked back. When did you stop lying to me? But I also have a concern. Han Jiangxue said solemnly, with a worried look on her face. You say? Han Jiangxue said calmly. I have done the thing, but I'm worried that Xiaodong will admire me too much and force you to serve me and give me some children. You must control yourself then. Zhang Ruoyu said cautiously, not seeming to be joking at all. Han Jiangxue's face was full of disgust and her heart was filled with disdain. Did you save the world? It's just a few tickets. Is this all my little Dong can do? He doesn't dare. Han Jiangxue said coldly. Then I feel relieved. Zhang Ruoyu nodded slightly and closed his eyes to rest. I watched something exciting last night, and my mind was full of slim waists and plump buttocks. I almost got harmed by Han Jiangxue several times in my dreams. This will need to be supplemented. In a boys' dormitory of the Binhai Naval Academy, the atmosphere was extremely depressing. Han Dong jumped up and down and cursed, his mentality completely exploded. My brother-in-law gave me the tickets, and you, Han Jiangxue, just kept them for yourself. Why are you, a greedy businessman with a stinking money, joining in the fun? Do you know how to salute? Several friends in the dormitory came to persuade Han Dong. Although they were also disappointed, they did not blame him. This pass is indeed difficult to obtain. Even in Binhai Military Academy, only the principal is qualified to go. It is extremely difficult for Han Dong to obtain for passes. At the beginning, Han Dong also had some thoughts about showing off and saving face. Ever since he learned about the pass, he promised in front of the whole class that everyone must go to see their idol off. But now, not only can the whole class not go, even he himself has no chance. He felt very upset because he lost face, but that was all he felt. Unable to see his idol off, he looked ashen and his heart was throbbing with pain. As a student, you can't just be an idol. Once you die, you don't even have the qualifications to burn incense. Han Dong's heart was like the weather outside the window, covered with dark clouds, as if the sky was falling.